Hello, everyone, and welcome to not only another day, but another big news Wednesday at the Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and JR Jackson. JR.
Yo, what's up? Big news Wednesdays. Hey, we have a lot of stuff going on. Of course, the January 6th committee stuff yesterday, and all those a-holes that decided to respond to that. And more importantly, John, I've decided to take my nutrition breakfast level to another level. I've got cheesecake brownie bites. They're amazing. They're amazing. Check them out. Check them out. It's part of a well-balanced breakfast.
Well, I guess it's balanced between cheesecake and brownie at least. So two things. One, those look amazing. And two, I don't think you're gonna make it through the show. That is too much at this point. But anyway, thank you for being here, JR. Today is Big News Wednesday. What was Tuesday last? Wasn't there something? It was like trending news Tuesday. I don't remember. Someone in the audience came up with something. We're gonna have to remember what that was. Maybe it was Thursday. Anyway, it's spilling over to the surrounding days, and that is true.
Tuesday was, John. I'm sorry. Tuesday was JR solo on the damage report Tuesdays, but maybe not.
That's true.
And then make him have a heart attack.
Okay, so JR is going to be filling in as lead host next Tuesday, JR, next Tuesday. He woke up yesterday like, oh God, what are we gonna do? We don't have a co-host. We're like, no, sorry, it's miscommunication. It's next week, next week.
All I'm gonna say is I love all of your producers, John. They're amazing human beings, and I wouldn't want anyone else on the show.
They would have gotten you through. Let me ask you a quick question before we get into everything. If you had to, not only you're hosting it, but like the co-host dropped out at the last minute, level 1 to 10 anxiety you would be experiencing.
Well, the story we're gonna start with today is probably the best comparison I can come up with. I would withdraw from all team events, and I would also withdraw from all individual events just to make sure that I take care of myself.
I don't like where your humor is going, sir. And we will be talking about that very soon. Oh, it was Tuesday News Day, that's what it was. Anyway, okay, well, we do actually have news both today and next Tuesday when JR will be solo hosting the show, so have fun with that. And we're gonna be walking through the latest on the Olympics and the right-wing counterattack against those who want you to acknowledge reality on what happened on January 6th. We've got more on vaccines, a walkout with the Activision Blizzard situation that's going on. That's exciting. Yeah. And then we've got other stuff as well. So there's a lot that we're gonna be talking about. Is there enough? We'll see. But as we go through it, if you would hit the like button, share the stream, that'd be great so that people know that we're live. And if you wanna send us messages, comments, tweets, all that, we will be responding as we go. Little reminders, one, after this show, Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie and Benjamin Dixon. How great is that? So definitely look forward to that. YouTube.com/indisputable_TYT coming up right after our show. Also, we will be giving you the results later on in the program of our poll available at tyt.com/polls. Will Donald Trump be subpoenaed by the Capitol Commission? We wanna know what you think. So go to tyt.com/polls, give us your thoughts, and we will let you know the results in a little bit. But with that said, it's time to launch into Big News Wednesday as we get going with, nobody predicts this is gonna be the first story, but I don't care. This is what we're doing these days. This is the only thing that keeps me in the news. Let's go. Following the surprise announcement that she would not be competing in the women's team final in Olympic gymnastics, Simone Biles has also now announced that she will not be competing in Thursday's individual all-around competition. And that is because of a mental health issue, according to a statement released by USA Gymnastics. They say, we wholeheartedly support Simone's decision and applaud her bravery in prioritizing her well-being. Her courage shows yet again why she is a role model for so many. And I have since yesterday, I finally got to watch the replay of the team final. And from her one vault, you could see that she was mentally not in it, narrowly avoided potentially horribly injuring herself even in that one vault. And so she will not be competing tomorrow in the individual. Now that said, we still don't know if she'll be competing in next week's individual event finals. We will of course see what happens with that, but JR, what do you think about this development?
I mean, considering she dropped out of the team competition, it's not too much of a surprise. At least it kind of makes sense, at least for her to drop out also of the individual events. I mean, it's the same reason. It's not like she had an issue with the team, or like, oh, it's too much pressure if it's the team events. But then once it's individual events, then all the pressure. Again, pressure is even the wrong word here. She's dealing with whatever mental health issues that she may have to deal with, whatever kinds of focus, honestly, that she has to deal with as far as competing out there on a national stage, or international stage here. So it's one of those things where you have to understand where the person's coming from. And just because they're an athlete, that we've been separating them from their humanity. Even when it came to NBA players, I think Kevin Love was one of the first ones to come out and talk about his mental health issues and how he's been struggling through that. And he was embraced. They said, oh man, he's given a good platform for other players that maybe were too afraid or maybe knew that this wouldn't go well with the public sentiment on this. And then, you had DeMar DeRozan come out next, and it's multiple others that have begun to talk about the issues that they deal with on a day-to-day basis that they couldn't talk about before. The fact that this is an Olympic athlete, I don't see how that makes much of a difference here, because I know that a lot of criticism has been thrown her way.
Yeah, I think I think for some people they probably think, well, this is the Olympics, so why not have your mental health crisis at a more convenient time, I guess. Of course, if you follow gymnastics, they have events throughout the year. There's the world championships, there's the national championships. They have all of these things. For her, this is not, well, last time I competed was 4 years ago. I really need to make the most. Exactly. So I think that there's a little bit of, and by the way, I don't watch all those events. I like gymnastics, but I generally only watch the Olympics. But that said, we're gonna get to some of the responses, but the through line to virtually all of the responses attacking her is varying degrees of ignorance, if not, misogyny and racial animus.
Yeah.
So,
and John, but you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were gonna get into those instances. I just want to have a point about.
Oh, I will. But you tell me.
No, because you talked about world championships and every other championships and every kind of competition that folks have in these types of sports, like Olympics, track and field, all the things that we see. Gymnastics, track and field, the things that we see at the Olympics. That for some reason, some folks think it only happens at the Olympics, and that people just train for 4 years and they don't have any other competitions. There's nothing else happening in their lives, but. It's the first indication that you shouldn't listen to the people who have these definitive opinions about what it is that she's going through, and that she's chosen this time to then bow out. There's plenty of things that she's been doing. It's the reason why she's considered the best in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, they ended up still getting silver. Jordan Childs competed in place of Simone Biles. And did a pretty solid job, considering that she didn't know until a few minutes before the first event. I believe she was on the uneven bars first, that she would be doing it. She said if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be here right now. We wouldn't be silver Olympic medalists. Which is also entirely true. And by the way, she's not gonna be competing in the individual all around. So now Jade Carey will be competing. I hadn't watched Jade Carey compete before the Olympics, but she was incredibly solid. This is an opportunity for her too. It gets to be up to the athlete. That's what it gets to be up to. We're gonna go through all the different variations on the attacks, but we just wanted to give you the update. This is what's going on. She has made this decision, and we will find out probably in the next few days, within a week, if she'll be competing next week in the individual events. That said, any other comments before we move on to the reaction, Jared?
No, but just this could go with also the reaction is. People talked about the level of difficulty and the things that she would attempt in her performance, and it's scary, the things that she does, because no one else even attempts these things sometimes.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the focus or the ability to do it mentally, you're gonna potentially significantly hurt yourself. So this is more than just protecting her mental health. This is protecting her physical health and then the rest of her career and anything else she decides to do. So I think a lot of people can take all that into account as we go into these these stupid things that they said.
You're 100% right. Her difficulty scores are way higher, and everyone says that they're an underestimate of what they should actually be. The judges don't know how to grade her because her stuff is too difficult. Did you watch the actual? Did you see her vault that she? Her last thing?
I didn't see that. No.
Yeah, so she apparently she was supposed to do 2.5 twists, and she did, I believe it was 1.5, and landed kind of badly, but she landed on her feet. If I jumped and did a half twist wrong, I would face plant. She made a mistake that was so bad the judges were worried for her as it was happening, and still landed on her feet. Gotta hate people. Anyway, okay, so let's go into some of the people that I hate. That's the subtitle for the show these days. John Iadarola, some of the people that he hates. Anyway, let's do this. Virtually as soon as it was announced that Simone Biles would not be competing in the final 3 events in the women's gymnastics team final, a bunch of men who have never once cared about women's gymnastics in their entire lives suddenly had a whole bunch of thoughts about it, and we're gonna go through some of them. The first is Charlie Kirk, who called her a selfish sociopath and a shame to the country, said we are raising a generation of weak men like Simone Biles. He was barely able to keep his sad sack body elevated above the surface of the desk as he said that, but he's very worried about this world-class athlete, potentially one of the most impressive athletes in the history of humanity. He was very worried about it. The two things about that, JR, one, he didn't just call her a selfish sociopath once, he called her a sociopath multiple times. And two, the reason I'm just telling you it rather than having you watch it is because he is unwatchable. He's calling a young athlete competing in the Olympics a sociopath, and it is somehow the most boring video I've ever seen in my life. He can't even sell that he's outraged about it. He's saying it like she's a sociopath. What we have is weak people. I don't know how a single right winger watches this, but I guess they have to have someone attack a black female athlete. So this is who they have. This is who they're going to war with. So what do you think about Charlie Kirk's take?
Well, I wonder where he even got this. They come with many names to call folks when they're just upset about something that has nothing to do with them or their lives. So sociopath is what we're now labeling Simone Biles. A sociopath is a person with a personality, I'm reading right now, with a personality disorder manifesting itself in extreme antisocial attitudes and behavior and a lack of conscience. So she's taking a break because of lack of focus, issues with mental health, maybe something else that's bothering her that is not allowing her to compete at her highest level. So therefore, she has a lack of conscience. She has extreme antisocial attitudes and behaviors. It doesn't match up.
Doing what's best for herself as well as her team, and trying not to make it just about her, allowing Jordan Childs to compete for her. Sociopath. That's what I hear.
Sociopath.
Jesus. Okay, so here's a little bit of fun. Okay, so she is potentially, she hasn't gone into super in depth about this, but it's entirely possible that she's worried that because she doesn't have the 100% mental focus needed to do the unprecedentedly difficult maneuvers she's going to do, which I have to imagine in practice are not like, okay, now I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this. It's an automatic thing that's trained into you. It's too difficult to think about in real time. And so if she makes a mistake, she could paralyze herself, which by the way, has happened to Olympic gymnasts in the past while doing their prep. She's worried about horrifically injuring herself. And if she did, by the way, if she broke her ankle and then had to bow out, they'd be perfectly fine with it. But if she wants to not break her ankle, they're not fine with it. Okay, so that makes her weak and a sociopath. Okay, but if you, during the worst pandemic of our lives, have like a little bit of cloth and you think, no, I have every right to breathe lethal germs on you. I can't do it. There's too much carbon dioxide and my face gets warm. So I should be able to kill you and your family. That's neither weak nor sociopathic behavior, according to Charlie Kirk and the rest of the right wing. In fact, that's damn near patriotic.
It's a damn shame, isn't it? Like the weakness that people, the first person decides to talk about weakness and how someone is a detriment to society, are the people who are detriments to society and are very weak. They can't take any criticism. They can't have a full-on argument. They can't actually espouse their full principles and points about things because they're too busy following someone else. Not sure where they're finding the strength from when they follow behind Donald Trump, who's the biggest loser in the country right now.
Yeah, Jesus, it's just so, God, like it's one thing. They see Simone Biles, JR, and they are just waiting. Oh God, please give us like. I understand everybody likes her, so we can't like attack her right now. But like, if there's any controversy, like vultures, like rats, they just want to attack. Yeah, so that was disgusting. So if there was one person, like JR, if I told you Simone Biles is dropping out, who is definitely gonna have a garbage take on this? Who would you say?
The thing is, I knew obviously because we're about to do this, but even before he said it, I was waiting for Piers Morgan to say something. And we know it's because he has his fights with any other black woman that he can because he hates black women. Let's keep it real.
Yep, he hates black women, and more importantly, he knows that the people who like him hate black women, and they need him to attack her. So, of course, the man who is Olympic caliber in garbage takery tweeted, "New Simone Biles calls herself the greatest of all time, but no GOAT would quit on her teammates like that, costing them an Olympic gold medal. Get back out there, Simone. You're a great champion, not a quitter. trying to make it seem as if he's supporting her.
Yeah.
Goes on to say, are mental health issues now the go-to excuse for any poor performance in elite sport? What a joke. Just admit you did badly, made mistakes, and will strive to do better next time. Kids need strong role models, not this nonsense.
Yeah.
By the way, like with Charlie Kirk, I don't know if literally he could twist his body over the vault apparatus. Piers Morgan, the only athletic event I've seen him compete in, if we could bring up a picture, was the 5-meter sprint off the set because somebody said something he didn't like. So he quit live because he couldn't take it mentally. So you'd think there'd be a little bit of sympathy. Oh, I'm sorry, that was all the way back in March. I guess we've all forgotten how he fled from the set.
Because he couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't take it anymore. Again, they can't argue their principles, their beliefs, or any of that stuff against someone else who's pushing back because they don't have, I guess they have some mental health issues, which by the way, this a-hole put in quotation marks, as if mental health issues is a fake thing, as if they don't exist. So not only is he attacking Simone Biles here, he's attacking all the millions of people that have these issues, that actually have these, that seek treatment, that seek counseling, that actually have to go into different kinds of ways to make sure that they are managing it correctly. There's depression hotlines and there's suicide hotlines for people that have issues to that degree of mental health. But you can throw it in some quotation marks and you think that's a winning argument. It's an obvious ploy to make sure you're reaching out to the lowest person that's listening and watching you. Because there's no way that you're looking to appeal to anyone that has a positive outlook on life. It has to be angry, detriments to society that have to like these types of things that you have to say. Why is it in quotation marks? Is anyone gonna ask him that?
I don't. Because they're made up, they're fake. Like he can't see it, so I guess it's not real. It's so they don't want people to be strong. They want them to be broken down. They want them to be ground down by their employers. They don't want them to challenge anything. Like she is supposed to be a role model, and regardless of whatever Piers Morgan says or wants, she could never move her body again and still be one of the biggest female sports role models in general in history. And now she's also another sort of role model, and he hates that. 100%. They don't want people like Simone Biles or people who look like Simone Biles to be those society looks up to. They just don't want it. Now that said, perhaps the worst take we should move on to. Most of those attacking Simone Biles kept their insults very personal, they're just attacking, like insulting or whatever. Some tried to be clever, and it's always dangerous as a right winger to try to be clever, to try to be funny, because you virtually will always fly too close to the sun on wings of pastrami. So Matt Walsh says Michael Jordan leaves Game 7 of the NBA Finals to focus on mental health, and I'm sure he thought I like that. That was a good one. That was clever. I made it about a different sport. She's weak. Michael Jordan, he's strong. Oh, and I'm pretending that I like this other black athlete, so you can't say that I'm being racist or whatever. Nailed it, Matty boy, except you didn't in any way. And like, I'm not gonna go through all the responses, but there's like 1,000 issues with that analogy very specifically. First of all, JR, I know you're not very familiar with Michael Jordan, so I'm gonna give you some facts about Michael Jordan.
Thank you.
He's like the athlete who quit at the peak of his career. Like if you were to think of an athlete who was on top and left for a while, you hit the only other one, you dingus. Like he's the guy who did it. And he did it at least in part because of mental health trauma related to the death of his father, correct, JR? That was a big part of it.
That's very correct. His father always wanted him to play baseball. He loved baseball. It was his first love. He and his dad's first love. And when he quit, after his father was viciously murdered in his car on the side of the road, he decided to take a break and go play baseball to honor his father and do what his father always wanted him to do because he's dealing with the death of his father. So does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar as to another Olympic athlete that we're lambasting and raking over the coals over the death of a parent and how they cope with it?
They were raising a weak generation of Chicago Bulls, I guess, at that point. Sociopathic behavior to make it about himself. No, your body, your performance, that is for us. You don't get to decide what sport you play or when you play it. So anyway, yeah, and as other people are pointing out, dude didn't play in game 7s, by the way. That I thought I found one, but I don't know for sure. Generally, it's also a bad analogy specifically from that. Also, as Parker Malloy points out, Scottie Pippen once refused to take the court during the playoffs because he didn't like a play call. I also thought, what about like Dave Chappelle? He was at the top of all of comedy and stepped out to deal with all of the mental health issues that are being caused by the insane elevation, the fact that he felt he was being exploited. There were a lot of problems there. And you know what? He gets to do that.
Since we're still on the Bulls,
of course he was criticized too.
Yeah, since we're talking about the Bulls, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, there's this other guy, his name is Dennis Rodman. He was part of that big championship run in the second end of it. And he would go out and party in Vegas. Now, maybe people didn't see that as a mental health thing, but it was definitely with self-medication for whatever issues he dealt with. And if you talk about Dennis Rodman, his upbringing and who he was and who he is, he had a lot of things to deal with mentally and psychologically throughout his entire career. So when he went off, and by the way, Phil Jackson, who everyone praises is one of the best NBA coaches of all time, they had this conversation with Dennis Rodman. He knew he was going off to Vegas in between games, very important games, to go party. Was it just because he had to party and get some alcohol in him? Maybe, or maybe he was self-medicating because there's other issues that he's dealing with on top of the pressure of being a professional athlete. But in 1997, 1998, you can't say those things. Yeah, and now that we are 100%. Saying these things, those folks are mad that these athletes have this different platform and they get to be human publicly.
Yeah, jeez. Okay, we had a graphic from Dinesh D'Souza, but nobody, even Dinesh D'Souza, cares about that. So anyway, so I want to give you a little bit. So there's an athlete on Twitter who is sharing a message that was sent to him by a gymnast who said, and I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but it makes me so frustrated to see comments about Simone not being mentally tough enough or quitting on her team. We were talking about the same girl who was molested by her team doctor throughout her entire childhood and teen years, won the World All-Around Championship title while passing a kidney stone, put her body through an extra year of training through the pandemic, added so much difficulty to her routines that the judges literally do not know how to properly rate her skills because they're so ahead of her time. All of this while maintaining her responsibilities to her endorsement deals, the media, personal relationships, etc. And still some people can say she's so soft, she's a quitter. That girl has endured more trauma by the age of 24 than most people will ever go through in a lifetime. And that certainly includes guys whose only qualification is their job, is that they were born to rich parents and a billionaire decided to create a media company for them. And that's the platform that they use to attack her. And then there's much more besides. I want to end though on a positive note. This is a photo that producer Sophie put in. While they're criticizing her, she's got adorable dogs. And she's got moves named after her, and she's got so many golds and so many championships and all that. She doesn't need your approval. I doubt she wants your approval. Yes, suck. You're Olympic level in one thing. You're white mediocrity.
There's my last thought on it is this too. You mentioned how the things with the Olympic doctors and what they did to many of these gymnasts. Athlete A is this documentary on Netflix. You have to watch it. We all knew what happened with Nasser and all those, but the degree to which it was completely organized around the entire US Olympic gymnastics team around how they protected the worst people. And because they were the super worst people. So they protected this entire bubble of exploitation of these athletes. You should find out the things that these athletes have been through since childhood. She's 24 years old and she's already a well-accomplished athlete, international star. And we have to think about the things they also went through and how they're still dealing with it. So before you go to criticizing people, think about what they've already been through and the pressure they've got on them now. And also think about social media. Guarantee you, we talk about Kevin Durant and the NBA and all these guys who have burner accounts and respond to people who are hating on them. Michael Jordans and the Scottie Pippens and whoever else you want to talk about from the 90s and the 80s of pro sports, they did not deal with social media and the knee-jerk hatred that comes with everything they say. I guarantee you, so many people would hate Michael Jordan right now if they actually had a chance to interact with him via social media in 1990, the way that they can interact with LeBron James now in 2021. Because even when that documentary came out about Michael Jordan and the Bulls runs, he and some people around him were worried that more people would start hating him because they'll find out more about who he really was and his personality.
Yeah.
It's a different world. It's a different world. So you got to move along with it. If you don't like it, just kick back and talk to the old fogies about things the way you used to be, and stop dealing with the new folks, because that's who's running the joint now.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the trauma that she's been through. Like I have to assume that these guys, like the base assumption about everything they say is, well, generally they hate women and black people, but also they're incredibly ignorant about what they're talking about. So it's entirely possible that they don't know about the fact that she was traumatized. They don't know about any of it, how pervasive it was, how protected Nassar was. I will assume they don't know any of that. One would hope you would know something before you call an athlete, a 24-year-old athlete, a sociopath. But that's a bar that's a little bit too high for most.
In an Olympics that's ridden with COVID and has issues with crowd sizes and people showing up and infected athletes, there's so many extra levels to the things that can be on someone's mind and what they're trying to protect themselves from. Just to, by the way, what we're upset about is we don't get to be entertained, because now we want the athletes in the middle of the arena and we want the tiger to come running at them and see if they can kill them. Like, this is where we are now, because they've chosen not to. Now we're gonna call them weak and a sociopath and get out of here, un-American, not patriotic. Who are they doing this for? Is this for you? Is this for you? Is this for your glory? Get out of here, man.
We're gonna get out of here for just a little bit as we go to our first break. When we come back, we're gonna look at a little bit of the fallout from the first day of the January 6th commission. Got any guesses about whether it's constructive or not? Well, anyway, we're gonna have that for you after this. I hate people. People are the worst.
Sorry, we went 30 minutes.
Thanks for being here, everybody. Yeah, I'm gonna get to the comments in just a second, but like, I think that women's gymnasts are the most impressive. We're getting a lot of feedback. I don't know, JR, if there's something going on with your mic. I think that women's gymnasts are the most impressive athletes in the world for a lot of different reasons. You can really take your pick, I think. To criticize one for letting, how dare you step down and let another amazing world-class gymnast take your spot for a couple events? That's the hill that you want to die on? A hill that you probably couldn't even get to the top of, you out of shape bastards. Anyway, okay, Kyle Cushing says in the super chats, a big news Wednesday headline. It's my birthday today, turned 36. Can I get a shout out? Thanks, John and JR. No. Daedalus says, happy birthday. Thank you, Kyle, for being here, appreciate it. Robin says, if Biles is not in the right frame of mind to compete, she could physically hurt herself badly while performing dangerous routines, and I think her withdrawing was the right thing to do, 100%. If she had been off her game, which she definitely was, she could have seriously hurt herself. She could have stopped herself from eventually competing in the individual events. Oh, she could have also tanked it for the entire team and made it so that they didn't medal at all. She could have done all those things, but that wouldn't have been sociopathic, I guess. Anyway, Daedalus says she was doing tricks that were intentionally scored lower because of the risk to discourage gymnasts from attempting them. Simone is the GOAT, 100%. May Money in the Building says, God, the Olympics are making me so mad this year. I used to love the Olympics. I need to adorn my soul cap and cool off with some laps. Hey, JR, that's awesome. That's one way to cope. I can't wait for the Olympics to come to LA. I'm gonna be at every gymnastics event. Anyway, Elizabeth Jacob says, ran across an article yesterday from 2019, a Brazilian coach saying that basically said, no one could beat her because, quote, blacks are more explosive. Just look at the NBA. Look who's jumping in that game. That's terrible. And that was intended as a compliment.
Jesus.
I
mean, check off the extra ligaments.
Oh God, oh no. I've had people talk like that near me. Anyway, Bernie the Kiwi Dragon says, hi JI and JJ. The only gymnastics that require no focus is mental, and conservatives often excel at that. Have a fantastic day. That's pretty funny. Stefan Good Trouble says, how many of them were sexually abused by their team doctor for years? This is typical. Hashtag save the children, only when we agree. Hashtag Blue Lives Matter, only when we agree. 100%, you supposedly care about female athletes, right? Isn't that what your whole anti-trans thing is? You don't care about a single female athlete. Maybe Gina Carano, and for all the wrong reasons. That's the only female athlete they give a damn about. Anyway.
Female athletes they care about are the ones that they feel that can satisfy them visually, which is why you got things like the beach volleyball team not able to wear shorts. They have to wear bikini bottoms because it all comes back to me. I want to see, what do I want to see? How do I want to be entertained? Not how are they competing and what's making them better. What can satisfy me and whatever urges I've got.
100%.
Sorry, continue.
No, you're right. Over on doesn't even need to be said, but Stinfleur says Charlie Kirk is the sociopath. 100%. Tempo Dan says, oh, by the way, Michael Tracy tweeted that she was just following the incentives that elites, the blue checks in society have provided. That's why she did it. You projecting weirdo, following the incentives and saying insane things. That's your bag. She's a gymnast. You do the brainworms thing. Anyway, Tempo Dan says she literally performs difficulty scales around 6.6, where most other gymnasts competed around difficulty 5. Yeah, it's crazy, and it should probably even be higher. Anyway, we got a lot of other news. We'll get to it after this. Gonna try to do other news. Oh no, it's bad news on this side of the break too, JR. We're screwed. Anyway, okay, let's jump into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we knew that the first night of right-wing media response to the amazing testimony of a number of different members of the Capitol Police about what they experienced on January 6th was going to be unproductive. Well, indeed it was. So first of all, Tucker Carlson, who has spent the days from January 7th until yesterday denying that you should care about the Capitol attack, pretending that there was no racism there, attacking Harry Dunn in anticipation of his testimony, spent last night attacking Michael Fanone. Here's what he had to say.
Watch Fanone cite the psychological trauma he endured as an excuse for ditching our Bill of Rights.
I've been left with the psychological trauma and the emotional anxiety of having survived such a horrific event.
Now, not to in any way underplay the crimes that were committed on January 6th, and there were crimes committed on January 6th, but compared to what? What's interesting is that Michael Fanone didn't mention experience any trauma during the time he spent last year.
Okay, so not to minimize it, but let's do that. Not to minimize it, I just laughed like a weirdo. Not to minimize it, but something BLM. So that's what he had. You just were told the guy has a traumatic brain injury. He had a heart attack and a concussion and PTSD. Not as bad as his hyena laugh that he's developed over the past year, JR, but it's still purposefully, first of all, planned. It was in the teleprompter that he was gonna laugh there. It was as condescending as his fans tuned in to see.
You have to make sure that you continue the drumbeat against certain people just for who they are, not because of what they experience or what the truth about the matter is. It's all based on making sure you have enough boogeymen. So the Dr. Fauci's of the world, Hillary Clinton's one of the old school ones, Pelosi's an old school one. So no matter what is said or done, which by the way, the Hillary Clintons of the world and the Nancy Pelosi's, they have their issues that of course many progressives are concerned with, but they're based in what they've done and their policy stances and what they do legislatively. Not just based on the fact that they exist. Also, Nancy Pelosi. So in this case, it has to be, so now it's Officer Fanone. Oh, I can't believe he's talking about the issues he's dealt with since then.
Yeah.
Why can't you? Why is that a bad thing? We did hear about from Tucker Carlson. We heard that Tucker Carlson had people show up to his house and he was petrified. His wife was inside with his kids and she didn't know what to do, which way to go. Could you believe that people exposed me like that, which they didn't, and sent people to my house to try and intimidate and scare us? So should we say, I don't give a damn, Tucker, about you or your family or what happens to them? Because boo-hoo, you had some health issues. Oh my God, you were afraid. Think about how upsetting that would be for you.
100%. I mean, you don't even have to go back that far. His fans were aggrieved that a guy went up to him in a fish store and said, "You're horrible." How could you do that? Back off of him, he's in public. There's not him over there. Why would you say a thing? Okay, so that's bad. But if you just had something, relatively minor, like being dragged down the Capitol steps, suffering a mild heart attack and a concussion as you were shocked with a stun gun and beaten, being electrocuted multiple times, that's nothing. Having a guy come up to you while you're in the bait aisle, that could leave a real mark on one. Anyway, So yeah, absolute, it's just condescending nonsense. It's designed to be condescending nonsense.
Absolutely.
There was no chance that they were gonna back the blue or whatever nonsense they say. And I don't say that to try to convince our fans. They know that the supposed support for the cops it's illusory. It's convenient when it's convenient. But if you happen to be a cop or know a cop, you should know that so long as their politics line up with the right wing, sure, they'll support you or whatever. But the second you disagree, they don't care if you're murdered brutally. On camera, they don't care. And not just the media, the Fraternal Order of Police, which supports every cop when they kill an unarmed person, they're not supporting these cops in any way. They have no interest whatsoever, by the way. It is purely political. So that was Tucker Carlson. Laura Ingraham did her best political performance awards, literally hanging out awards for best crying, best whatever. Like, this is 4 different cops who are all talking about how they nearly died, and she is mocking them. Imagine, I'll do the stereotypical thing. Imagine if Ilhan Omar did this about other cops. Like,
oh my God. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you got Fox News on this. Imagine BET News, right? It's at least something everyone would connect with black folks and a black audience watching it. Decided after there's protests last summer to then have opinion people come on and talk about how cops are boo-hooing and I can't believe they're worried so much. When in reality, the story was about how they need to stop murdering people in the streets for absolutely no reason. There's pushback for that. There's pushback for wanting cops to stop murdering people in the streets. But if there's an anchor that comes on and says, look at these cops crying over getting shot. No, literally, once they are purposefully attacked, we're talking about when there's protests in the streets and then cops come and converge and then there's a conflict. That's completely different. BLM didn't run up on every cop they can find in the country and go to attacking them. That didn't happen. But here it did. All these MAGAs went to the Capitol, found Capitol police officers that were in their way and said, are you with us or against us? If you're against us, you're gonna die on your knees.
They said it literally. Yeah, 100%. And he doesn't care because there are no values, there are no principles. It is all case by case. Does this help me politically? Or does this help me, in terms of my career, getting more people to watch me, getting me more money? I don't care about anything else. I don't have an ideology. I don't have a value system. I just want money. That's Tucker Carlson. That's Laura Ingraham. She's not as good at it, which is why more people don't. But that is what they're thinking. Now, one of the most amazing pieces of testimony yesterday was Harry Dunn talking about the racial angle to the protests, the racial slurs that were slung at him and other Capitol Police. That should be an eye opener. For some, it's not. Shockingly, people like Newsmax's Greg Kelly, they're not quite convinced by it.
Where's the audio? Sorry, but there were 900 body cams. There were the surveillance all over the place. Where's the audio? I've heard all kinds of audio, but I haven't heard that. And I doubt that. I do.
Yeah, he's just, look, JR, I know maybe you're gonna criticize him. He's just an impartial arbiter. I have taken in the data and I doubt it. There's no preconceived notions about anything here. Yeah, we're all shocked, Greg Kelly, that you don't believe the black cop talking about his experience of being called the N-word. That's breaking news. That should be the Chiron. Why isn't that the Chiron, Sophie?
That's not now. It's always been the standard because back when recordings of things happening to black folks kind of began, at least the biggest account of it was Rodney King in like '91. When finally someone recorded a black person being assaulted by multiple police officers just wailing at him. So ever since then, there was a 10% awakening that, you mean all these black people aren't lying? That was like 10% of it. And then slowly, as we've had more and more technology where everyone has a small computer in their hands, filming everything that they see, now the new standard is unless you filmed it, it didn't happen. Which the basis for that is these black people are liars. Every single one of them. If a black person says something happened, we're starting with their lying. Unless they prove it, unless they produced evidence of what they said happened, it absolutely didn't happen.
Well,
I don't buy
it. I think you're being too easy on them. They don't believe they were attacked. That's all on video. They don't care about that at all.
Yep, there's plenty of audio, by the way. Greg Kelly Where's the audio? Where's the video? There's hundreds of hours of evidence. We looked at it and you're still denying that the rest of it happened. So what do we?
First of all, so JR, let me ask you a question. So if the audio comes out of them yelling the N-word at him, well, he'll change his mind, right?
Yeah, it was Antifa. It was him and his other officers saying that to make sure that they got a tape of someone saying it, and they're trying to frame these good insurrectionists that stormed the Capitol violently and attacked people. Yeah. It doesn't have to make sense. As long as you're on the racist side, that's all that matters. There's no truthfulness. There's no execution to this principle. The principle is racism, and racism is based in hatred and ignorance. That's all those are the only two boxes you have to check. What's left? You don't have just hate, and you're on that side.
Just hate. Ugh, God,
I'm so tired.
Okay, by the way, I'm just gonna quick throw this aside. We weren't gonna do like a full clip on this or whatever, but so you know there have been all those stories that have been coming out over the past month. I mean, there were some last year too, but X person had a ton of social media posts of like it's just the flu, doesn't matter, it's Bill Gaetz' conspiracy theory, and then they die. Or they go through a horrible experience from COVID or whatever. He did a whole segment, and none of it was, it breaks my heart that these people were so misinformed and then died. It was, why are people discussing these stories? That's shaming people. Like, he finally acknowledged that people are dying thanks to misinformation, but he doesn't want them to stop. He wants you to stop trying to correct the misinformation that's killing them. It's mind-blowing. But I mean, I guess I've never been offered millions of dollars in exchange for those of you watching the show to die. I would like to assume that I wouldn't accept that deal, but some people really like millions of dollars, I guess. Anyway, sorry, final thoughts?
If we're gonna compare things to like, the protests and the clashes last year during the summer over police brutality, and even before that, when they were mad about Colin Kaepernick and the chance of frying pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. They said that about 1 million times on Fox because protesters were chanting that at one of these. They're upset about that chant, but they're not upset about what's, by the way, maybe they caught it on camera. Sure, they said it. So what about the things we caught on camera of them specifically saying, you're gonna die. I'm gonna take your gun and kill you. Nancy, hang Mike Pence. We heard all of that. Yep. Why aren't those chants threatening? Maybe because of who they came from?
Maybe weird. Because nothing matters. Nothing at all. Anyway. Okay, we're gonna take a break. We come back. Officer Fanone had a devastating, disgusting voicemail that we're gonna play for you. But first, this break. Okay, everybody. Sarah Diaz over in YouTube just became a tier 2 member. Thank you so much for that. You get access to our top 10 lists. Earlier this week, Francesca and I did our top 10 things that we still have at least some hope might happen politically in what remains of 2021. Elizabeth Jacobs says they also say that the judges, Simone Biles, give her lower scores because no one can beat her. Well, I can't get into why she is under-evaluated for her difficulty, but everyone seems to agree that that is actually happening. Okay, Jason says, wait, how didn't Q tell them all about Nasser? That's a great point. Why don't they actually care about any specific pedophiles? Just the concept of it, the fact that Tom Hanks might be one, that's important, but not that it actually exists. And Nasser's like a perfect example of it. He was an elite in the field, protected by other economic elites in the field, allowed to do this to kids. They don't care, they're not interested.
All for the sake of money.
Yeah. Celtic says the right seems to only care about the mental health of Biden or when there's a shooting in order to distract from gun control. Yeah, then it's a big deal, but that's about it. Seymour says, surprised at how long you went into the Simone story. Mental health is very important, and I'm glad, for example, more employers are allowing mental health breaks. Totally. Some people have learned a little bit about the struggle and what people are going through the course of the pandemic. Others don't want you to learn those lessons. They're not interested in it. Okay, Pick says, I've been buying Swanson broth for years and I cook a lot, no more. I'm also going to find a new brand of tortilla chips and salsa. Oh, I think that's a reference to Tucker Carlson because he's a Swansonaire. I didn't know that they made that stuff. I thought it was just like, like like frozen meals or something like that. Anyway, okay, Jason R says, who wouldn't have thought that a big wet kiss to capitalism and consumption that is the Olympics has bad outcomes for human health? That's true, but also, have you noticed sort of a trend here in the Olympic stuff? And I don't just mean, the Olympics officials and all that trying to make the lives as difficult as possible for female athletes and black athletes as possible. That's certainly a trend. All they're doing is attacking the athletes. JR, have you seen like Trump's video attacking the soccer team? Yeah. They're all just mocking them and attacking them. And again, like with the cops, aren't they supposed to pretend to be in favor of the woo, Team USA? That's the patriotic thing. They have no interest in that. It is just attacking. Is it because it's Biden?
No,
is it because?
They made a PR decision as to who they think is the louder, more important voice. And as Trump was disparaging the women's soccer team, he got cheers from his audience. That's reassurance that he's going the right way. Because if you make sure that you attack the athletes, because what the most important thing is preserving the white supremacy basis within our country and how it flows through our veins of the country. So if you're going rah rah USA, but you're rooting for athletes that are calling out the white supremacy of the country, which the women's soccer team members did, NBA players did, all that's happening with athletes, you have to oppose the athletes, because the 100% most important thing in America is preserving the white supremacist roots that are still there and are still growing new branches.
Are the Olympic teams too diverse? Is that what I don't understand what
they don't shut
know
up
the politics
and just
of 99%. Yeah, I guess most of them don't even talk about politics though, but they're eager for them to lose. But somehow, if you want to change the tax code, you're hoping for America to fail. You're literally hoping for it. I don't understand anything. The world doesn't make any sense. We'll be back after this. I don't understand anything. Okay.
I was literally doing the same thing, John.
You were sighing like that? You need to take a breath before you dive back into the news. Anyway, okay, let's do this. Officer Michael Fanone had a lot to say yesterday at the Capitol Commission about his experience on January 6th, and some watching it had a lot to say to him, as if believing that they needed to prove his point. Here is a voicemail that was sent to Officer Fanone that he played last night on Don Lemon's show.
Yeah, this is from Michael Fanone, Metropolitan Police Officer. You're on trial right now, lying, and you want an Emmy, an Oscar? What are you trying to go for here? You're so full of you little. You're a little man. I can slap you up the side of your head with a backhand and knock you out, you little. You're a punk. You're a lying. How about all that scummy black scum for 2 years, destroying our cities and burning them and stealing all the out of the stores and everything? How about that, and assaulting cops and killing people? How about that, you? That was on the goddamn Capitol. I wish they would have killed all you scumbags, because you people are scum. They stole the election from Trump, and you know that, you scumbag. And you, too bad they didn't beat the out of you more. You're a piece of. You're a little. You scumbag.
Okay, so we're gonna have his reaction to that in just a little bit, JR. What did you make of that?
Okay, there's so many contradictions and senseless things in that expletive-ridden messages. Which, by the way, for the first 10 seconds, I was like, this guy's a comedian. This is a made-on.
It sounded like a voice. Yeah, it did.
But as he flowed, you understand that this is a thought process of these types of folks. Anyway, I'm not gonna go to name calling. The first thing he goes into is the Emmy. If you get an Emmy or an Oscar, because he's acting. Where might he have gotten the idea that this particular officer was acting when he was giving his testimony? Maybe it was Laura Ingraham when she said she wants to give out the best performance awards for these officers. So it's a direct line of thought process that these followers, these minions have for these idiot actors that are on television inciting more people to violence. Look how angry that guy was. And his only talking point was, oh, you're an actor. Then went into the F words and I don't know if he threw an N word in there, but he definitely talked about black folks and the riots last year and everything. Now, again, the next contradiction is, so he had issues with black folks that were attacking our cities and burning and stealing things out of the store and attacking our police officers. He did point that out. They're attacking our police officers. And in the next breath said, I wish they would have attacked you more on the Capitol and killed you and whooped your ass, whatever else he wanted to say that they did. So is he lying? Because you admitted at the end that he was beaten and he wished he was beaten more. Do you support the cops? Because you said that you're mad at these black animals that hurt cops last summer, but you want this cop hurt more. Which side of this argument are you on?
Well, no, but the thing is, like, you're totally right. But I think the core hypocrisy or disconnect is I'm watching you and you're lying. What is he was talking about? He's talking about the violence that the MAGA crowd was sending at them. And they were talking about racism and stuff like that. So to prove that he's lying, he threatens him with murder and says a bunch of racist stuff. Like, you're just demonstrating. I don't know if you were there, but you sure seem like one of those people. And again, all of this because the guy is just talking about what happened to him, which again, we don't need to speculate about. It's on video. You can see it happening. He didn't, because he's only watches Fox News, I'm sure, so he's never seen any of that footage. But here is a little bit of Michael Fanone talking about getting that voicemail.
It was important for you. You did not want us to censor that. What do you say to that? What do you want people to know? And that idiot.
I mean, I remember like my first reaction immediately after listening to that phone call, which I actually received while I was testifying in the hearing today. This is what happens to people that tell the truth in Trump's America.
That simple.
That simple.
It doesn't bother you. It doesn't hurt you.
I mean, unfortunately, I've come to expect this type of response. It's not the first time that people have expressed similar opinions to me. Unfortunately, you know, this is, you know, there is an element in this country that believes that.
Yep, and they have a massive media outlet and a bunch of grifting politicians that are trying to get them to feel it stronger than they already do. They love that stuff. Final thought?
I take it back. There was one thing I did say that I didn't know. He did get the voicemail during his testimony, so it wasn't fueled off of Laura Ingram's calling him an actor. They all just go to that thought process automatically.
Well, yeah, not that specific one, but they call all these crisis actors.
Oh yeah, everything.
It used to be just Alex Jones, but no, now it's every single one of these people is faking it, even if you can watch the footage yourself. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Close.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our final story of this first hour. Jim Jordan was on Fox News last night, and he might have accidentally opened himself up to a little bit of legal drama, maybe a subpoena coming from the Capitol Commission that he hoped to be on. He might be at some of these meetings, but on the wrong side of the desk, thanks to this video.
This committee is obviously going to go down a number of different roads about who knew what when, who was talking to coordinators of the protest. Did you talk to the former president that day?
I've talked to the former president umpteen times, thousands. I mean not thousands times,
January
but countless times. I talk to the president. I never talk about what we talk about because I just don't think that's appropriate. Just like I don't talk about what happens in Republican conferences. So I've talked to the president numerous times. I continue to talk to the president since he's left office.
January 6th, Congressman.
Yes, I mean I've talked to the president. I've talked to the president so many, I can't remember all the days I've talked to him, but I've certainly talked to the president.
Yeah, and on that day can you share any of the insight of what he was thinking about that day?
Brett, the people we need to come testify are the people who can testify to the fundamental questions. Why didn't the United States Capitol, the People's House, have an appropriate security posture on that day? And what have we done? Those are the people we need to hear from. Yeah. That's the information and testimony we need to get.
Okay, so blah, 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 not what he was asked about. But anyway, that actually was exposing something because about 2 months ago, there was a discussion about the January 6th attack. And in it, he said, I didn't do anything wrong. I talked to the president. I talked to the president all the time. He was asked to clarify whether he'd spoken to the president on January 6th and he wouldn't say. Well, look, it took multiple follow-up questions. And we actually had a host on one of these shows doing follow-up questions. And he did say He spoke to him on that day. He refused to say what about the sort of thing that a commission investigating this might want to know more about. JR, what do you think?
Yeah, it's like he figured it out after he was going through his brag session. Oh, I talk to the president all the time, thousands of times, hundreds. I talk to him every day. You know, I don't know if I talk to him on January 6th, probably January 6th, because so he got a little bit of ahead of himself because the whole point, his whole existence is based in self-promotion via Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So I talked to him. So what'd you say? Well, what we're trying to talk about here, Brett, is about Nancy Pelosi and this commission. Oh, well, I thought you were talking about how much you talked to the president. How come we just jumped off the subject so fast there, Jim? This is a guy who wanted to be on the panel. And this is, honestly, he's proving more and more every day the reasons why Nancy Pelosi made the decision to kick his ass off.
Yeah, exactly. And look, you know, we did a poll. Why don't we give the results? Because it ties into this. We were questioning, based on what Liz Cheney was saying yesterday, whether Trump would be subpoenaed. And of course he needs to be. What was he doing and not doing? What was he saying? Who was he talking to? This is all incredibly important. Well, we asked you, and 33% of you thought that he would, 66% not. Fairly definitive, thinking he will not be subpoenaed. Perhaps we should have been asked about Jim Jordan, because he's definitely opened himself up to. But that said, I do not think, he's gonna end up in prison and everything's gonna be great. No, like nothing good is gonna happen, because we still live in the same world we were in yesterday. But maybe we can find out a bit more. And not just him. You know, Kevin McCarthy said that he spoke to Trump on that day. These are crucial bits of information that we need to have access to. But we'll see if the commission is serious. And I'm not necessarily convinced, well, just because they have it and just because the Dems got it, I'm assuming it's gonna be awesome. No, not at all. We might not get any of this information, but they should get it.
Yeah, we need some confirmation of what you guys talked about on these phone calls. Every phone call everybody these guys had with them that day.
Exactly. Well, we'll have to wait and see. You know, this could go for weeks, it could go for months. We'll be watching to find out. But so far, the reaction from the right has not been great. Now, that said, thank you to all of you watching on our linear platform. That's gonna be it for our first hour. But if you're watching on Twitch or on YouTube, we've got a lot more news coming up for you. We're gonna take just a short break, but stick around because we have more on vaccines, on masks, on a whole bunch of stuff after this. Welcome back, Twitch and YouTube. It's still the Damage Report. I'm still John. He's definitely J.R. Jackson, and it is a big news Wednesday. So we're gonna jump back in the news in just a sec. First, I wanted to thank over on YouTube our new tier 2 member, Resting Tuckerface, aka the mayonnaise breathing dragon.
Ew.
That's pretty good. And Zato Yaman as well, who became a tier 1 member. Thank you to both of you. Appreciate you being here. Thank you, everybody. Oh, what were you gonna say?
I'm confused. The mayonnaise breathing dragon put my brain on something that shouldn't be on. I put mayonnaise on sandwiches. I put mayonnaise on my tuna. I do all that stuff. If someone says something specific about mayonnaise, I automatically go, ugh. But I use mayonnaise. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why that happens.
It's a necessary evil. Like, it's the idea of too much mayonnaise or mayonnaise by itself. It's only supposed to be with something. I don't know. But yeah, I get the same way. I also saw, by the way, Brandy Lou gifted 5 tier 1 subs on Twitch. Thank you so much for that. Z Huddle gifted 1 as well. And I saw that Mini Morpho subscribed for the 10th month and says 10 months for JR Wednesday. Hell yeah. Love you, TDR and Dragon Squad. Thank you, Mini Morpho, who made these awesome little coasters. Thank you.
My wife bought a bunch of, she buys coasters like once a day. So there's 100 million of them around my house. These are the ones that she bought. I don't use these anymore. No, they don't
look like they were dipped in white chocolate.
They don't look nice. This is the only coaster I use in this house.
Okay. Yeah, it's official now. The only one to use. Okay, with that, everybody, coming up at the show, bear in mind, Ben Dixon is gonna be joining Rashad Ritchie for Indisputable. So you got that coming up. Also tomorrow, Thursday, 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time is our monthly live Q&A for our tier 3 members on YouTube. So if you'd like to become a member, upgrade your membership, we're gonna be doing that a little bit after the show. We always have a bunch of fun. And I believe there are posts up in places for people to post some early questions. That's always really helpful. There's a couple of you in the audience who always do it. You know who you are. Thank you so much. Anyway, with that, why don't we jump back into the news? Oh, it's on the community tab if you wanna go take part in that. Okay, Geraldo apparently got into it on Fox News about the unvaccinated population. Let's take a look at what's been going on over with Geraldo.
You have to understand that if you're unvaccinated, then you should at least get tested every week on your own, or understand why you are banned from the VA, why you are banned from restaurants, why you are banned from other businesses and colleges increasingly, and they should be. Because it's selfish. If you're unvaccinated and you're going around without being tested, you are an arrogant, selfish SOB.
You have proof of that? Do you have proof? You were asking for proof from Jesse. What's your proof that people are wandering around willy-nilly spreading the disease? You sound like you don't have any evidence.
No evidence that unvaccinated people, I have it. Here's, you want evidence? 99% of the people sick in the hospitals in Los Angeles County of COVID were unvaccinated. How's that for proof?
That's not bad, actually. Nice, Geraldo. His initial thing was a little bit like kind of bumbling and bombastic or whatever, but he did have a good response to Greg Gutfeld's gorilla impression there. So that's good. JR, what'd you think?
Yeah, Geraldo finds himself every once in a while on the right sides of these things. And it's been specifically about COVID.
3 times a year.
Yeah, and other stuff was like January 6th, and I forget what his third thing is this year that he's been correct on. But I mean,
he likes Black Widow.
I mean, when he's there, right? So yeah, it's weird because people like Greg Gutfeld really think that no one else has any basis for their arguments at all, because they don't. It's the epitome of the projection. It's like, we just say things with no proof. Where's your proof? And they think that's like a mic drop. Well, if you pay attention, I don't have to tell you the proof. If you would listen, you might agree with me. If you would look at evidence, you might agree with me. Just we talked about last hour. Just because we saw video and audio evidence of what happened on January 6th doesn't mean it's true. So proof doesn't do anything for folks like Gutfeld anyway. So who cares? Yeah. That was a process thing. Let me just say proof, and hopefully he won't have much to say.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing to like. The whole, I'm assuming the meta thing that they're talking about, because they always are, is how dare they have an issue with people who might have COVID just doing all the stuff that we don't want them to do. Like, don't test people, don't stop unvaccinated or unmasked people from walking in here, don't have any kind of vaccine passport. So wait, he's saying, how, I want you to prove that people who aren't vaccinated are potentially exposing people. But the whole position of your network is that we shouldn't even know if they're vaccinated as they're doing these things. If you're right and they're not trying to do these things, then the vaccine passports wouldn't inconvenience people. It will only inconvenience people if they're unvaccinated and trying to do things that there might be a reason to want them not to do. So it's so stupid. And I know Greg Gutfeld is not there to be like a thinker or whatever. He's there because they thought he was funny at one point. And there's nothing sadder than when that's not true. But anyway, yeah, no, it's Geraldo. I don't think he necessarily made the case as well as I would want for why that selfishness matters and why some people might have concerns that would lead to things like mandatory vaccines, which apparently Justice Department lawyers have determined that federal law doesn't prohibit public agencies and private businesses from requiring the vaccine. We would need to see that actually adjudicated in the court to know for sure, but that's the stance that they're taking as we enter into this new wave. So it is a conversation you can expect to hear more of.
Yeah, I mean, if you work in certain fields, that's the way it's always been for many other things. It's not just a COVID thing. All these things that we're complaining about are not new. The rules and the barriers and the requirements that many people would have, it's nothing new about it. It's just we're not used to this one, so we decide to complain and pull our hair out and cry and whine and try and make money off of these bad stances. Really, yeah. And by the way, to answer more of Gutfeld's question of proof, it's like January 6th again. People are recording themselves. They're submitting posts on Twitter and Instagram about it, where they're at parties talking about how they're unvaccinated. How they're talking about how they're not gonna get vaccinated, they're not gonna wear a mask. I'm gonna go in this place, I'm going to this concert, I'm going to this party. The proof is you guys are telling us that you're unvaccinated and going and spreading it. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah, it's not like the crowd is just thick with MAGA flags, but like, could you just give me a little bit of space? I got my mask. I don't want you to give me the. Yeah, exactly. Well, apparently they also got into it over the demonization of immigrants as we launch into this next wave. So let's jump to that video.
I am appalled, however, by these gentlemen to my left, ironically, who blame the border for the spread of this disease without any evidence. Where is your proof that the
it's called common sense, Geraldo.
Well, common sense is not proof, Jesse.
Geraldo, so you don't think it's a coincidence that all of these variants are popping up in the very places on the border that Biden's opened?
You don't think that's a coincidence? To demonize that population.
I'm demonizing Joe Biden. All right?
You have
not the immigrants who haven't been vaccinated. I'm demonizing
even
Joe.
An anecdotal story of a bus pulling into a town that later had an outbreak. You have nothing like that.
Man, how unfunny do you need to be to think that he's funny ever? Anyway, yeah, it's Biden. He's reopening the border. He reopened the border in Florida, and that's why they have so much COVID. He went to the beach and he kicked it down. You get in here. I see you in those waves. Come on. It's Tampa, baby. Well, let's get some COVID going. No, it's nonsense. Okay, let's say that they're right. Let's say that their babbling nonsense is right. And all these immigrants are coming in and they're bringing COVID to Florida and to Texas, which those are the places that have it bad. So they're coming into Texas, JR. So should people get vaccinated then? No, I mean, I'm not a doctor. I think they should be exposed to the thing that these demonic immigrants are bringing in. So like, I want you to follow your own stupid point half a step further. If your insanity is true, what then should we do? You don't want us to think about it this much. You want us to stop with the hate and probably COVID. That's what we should have in our heart. Hate and virus.
Yeah, the most important thing is to make sure that we continue with a scapegoat, someone that you've already traditionally been taught to hate, and blame it on them. Put it on them so that you don't have to bear any responsibility for your actions, for things that you've decided to do as this pandemic now is going into a new wave with the Delta variant because people decided not to take part or even educate themselves on how it works. So when you're speaking to a group of people that are just ready to nod to whatever it is that will fit to what they've already said they want to do, it's an easy bake. You can be unfunny, you can also be unintelligent, and you're a success.
That is true. That is 100% true. Okay, we're gonna switch it up in one sec. Wanted to read a couple of comments first, though. Christian Rash says, "Wow, talk about a big news Wednesday. You guys are killing it today." Well, thank you, Christian. I appreciate that. Abstract Dragon didn't put down a comment. Sort of seems right for the name, but appreciate the super chat regardless. Ariel says that phone call is something else. I would hope that this makes the Trumpists question what side they're on if that hope hasn't been dead for years. Ariel, thank you for your super chat, and you know that is not gonna happen.
It has the opposite effect.
Don't you come in our super chat and say crazy things. Anyway, Swift Turtle on Twitch said this earlier, yelling at Sophie when Sophie has all the power. Super smart there, John. That's true. Uh-oh. I'm glad she can't live change the lower thirds. Okay, T-Mac subscribed for 9 months. Thank you. Husky Dragon for 8 says also a member on YouTube. Thank you very much. That's very nice of you. And Independent Speaker subscribed for 5 months. You're the best. Thank you so much. Okay, with that,
I want to clarify that I didn't say Sophie's name at the beginning of this broadcast. I just said things that happened with maybe some of your producers. So I'm out of the path of her wrath, just so we all know.
Yeah, we'll see if she sees it that way. Anyway, let's jump into more news. Employees at the video game company Activision Blizzard are staging a walkout, which might well be happening as we're filming this. Yes, indeed it is. And this is over the lawsuits that have come out. There's a lot of parts of this we've talked about in previous videos, but basically they've created this frat boy-like company culture where women are routinely abused, sexually harassed, passed over for promotions, made to do work that men are not required to do, a bunch of different things like that. So you can watch the old video if you want the details on that, but this is the update. Workers will be meeting outside Blizzard's main campus in Irvine, California at 10 a.m. Pacific time, with a virtual protest taking place on social media for those who can't attend in person. They're using the hashtag #ActiBlizzWalkout. The same employees who've organized that walkout have drafted a letter. 3,100 current and former employees had signed it. And they say, we believe that our values as employees are not being accurately reflected in the words and actions of our leadership. So what do they mean there? Well, there had been a statement put out initially after the lawsuit went public, and there were write-ups about it, and places like TDR were talking about it, saying the lawsuit includes quote, distorted and in many cases false descriptions of Blizzard's past, and that the picture the Fair Employment and Housing Department paints is quote, not the Blizzard workplace of today. Software engineer at Activision said that's patently untrue. These things have been happening right up to the current day. We know people across the company who've been complaining about these issues for decades, or who have made allegations that have not been listened to. The lawsuit and the company's response to it was the match that lit the powder keg. So obviously allowing it to continue was the major problem, but then attacking those who were making clear what was going on there was not appreciated by the workers. And so you've got this massive letter and the walkout. JR, what do you think?
This continues to go through the way many companies, it doesn't have to necessarily be corporations. Companies will run things, and then when they get some kind of criticism or calls for things to be remedied within the workplace, you make life so much harder on yourself. So when it was internal, and maybe people from Activision Blizzard were complaining about the workplace, complaining about the way the promotional process works, or the way people harassed and the frat boy nature. What you could do is listen, acknowledge it, spend some time fixing it. Then no one talks about this anymore. Instead, the response has to be, we're gonna stomp you down and make sure you stay under our heel and have a negative response to what you've been telling us internally. So therefore, when now they have to come public and have a lawsuit about the way that the workplace environment is, now we're all talking about it. It's so much worse for you now. Just take care of it and maybe listen and value your employees, all of them. And you won't be in these types of situations where people now are judging whether or not you have a hostile work environment, because you could have fixed it first. It's always so much harder just to push back, because you think this is the nature of a capitalistic society is, if you work somewhere, you have to be a worker ant that gets crushed and has to smile about it.
Well, I think they're terrified, and I think it's a combination of two things. They're terrified that if they acknowledge it, it'll open them up to legal jeopardy or whatever. And they're also probably pretty confident that the media would protect them. I think that there's a lot of reason for them to believe that it'll be, sort of brushed under the rug like a lot of things are. It's not like, I don't know for sure, but my speculation is that all of the business networks were not jumping on this story, because that's not what business news is about. We talk about that on the Wednesday main show quite a bit. We probably will later today. But anyway, yeah, the process you're talking about how they make it so much needlessly worse is totally true. The CEO of Activision Blizzard put out a statement responding to the development saying, our initial responses to the issues we face together and to your concerns were, quite frankly, tone deaf. It is imperative that we acknowledge all perspectives and experiences and respect the feelings of those who have been mistreated in any way. I'm sorry that we did not provide the right empathy and understanding. I don't even like that statement.
Yeah, why didn't
that we face together? Dude, you're the CEO. Calm down. You ain't in it together. You're part of the problem. They're saying you guys hid this, you covered it up. So anyway, really fast. What the walkout organizers want, an end to mandatory arbitration clauses in employee contracts. As the organizers say, they protect abusers and limit the abilities of victims to seek restitution, adopt policies to improve diversity, equity, and inclusion, publish compensation data, promotion rates, and salary ranges for employees of all genders and ethnicities, and hire a third party to audit the company's structure, human resources department, and executives. Those sound like changes that would fix many, if not all, of the problems that have been discussed. We will see. Apparently, Bobby Kotick's in it with you. So I guess they're gonna be all on this, but we'll see what Activision Blizzard is really willing to do. A lot of it is probably gonna come from public pressure driven by things like this walkout. So if you care about this issue, if you're interested in it, use that hashtag #ActiBlizzWalkout and get involved in other ways if you can.
Yeah, if my last thought on this, if I was part of the executive board or whoever runs the company, I wouldn't want a third party to come in and audit my company's structure, the human resources department, or me as an executive. I wouldn't want that. I understand the thought you don't want to be this executive that's now has this oversight third party committee. Who the hell are these people? Looking at my company and making sure that the structure is correct to their recommendations and their standards, right? I get that. So you know what you do before that? You take care of the other things that are now in these demands from your employees that you didn't listen to before. Because now you have policies in place that will protect abusers and limited their ability to speak and get restitution for their issues. Maybe if you listen to people and adjudicate these issues, you won't get to the point where someone thinks we need to hire a third party to oversee the entire structure of the company and our demands in the lawsuit because you ignored the original issues. Take care of the original issues, you won't have these extra ones on your back. Well, now it's too late.
You're totally right. By the way, Hazel in the Twitch chat says there was a mass log out at 5 p.m. UK time on European servers to show support. That's a great idea. Having the player base log out at the same time, showing that they're tapped in and following this issue. I think that's a great idea. They should do more of those. Okay, we have time for one more story. Also wanted to thank Metal Kitty Mom for gifting 5 tier 1 subs on Twitch. Much appreciated. That said, let's jump to this last story. The Atlanta Police Department was apparently called to a domestic incident at the Summerhill Apartments near Atlanta. They had at one point restrained a woman who had apparently been brandishing a weapon at another person in the area. And this is what happened after she was restrained and on the ground. We want to give everyone, by the way, obviously this is going to be video, probably goes without saying, but it is police violence, so understand that. With that said, here is the video. So that is a woman who has been handcuffed, is laying on the ground with 3 cops at least casually standing around her. Apparently she spit on one of their shoes, so the cop kicked her in the face. And that just happens in America. Somebody who likely was having some sort of mental health incident was restrained, was no danger to any of them, but they have her in a position where they have all the power. And the power that they want to exercise is kicking her in the face.
Yeah, so at what point is the restraint? At what point, what's the point of handcuffs? What's the point of standing over her while she's lying on the ground and can't do anything else to you? You know, like as it was reported, you know, they showed up and they hear reports of a weapon being pointed and brandished at everyone. That's a serious situation. Now that you've got the situation under control, haven't you calmed down yet? Isn't this part of your training? What do you restrict people for? What do you restrain the suspect for if afterwards you're still afraid of them? Or maybe you just want a little bit of extra violence to exhibit upon them. Because standing over her with her face down isn't enough.
Yep. Yeah, there are people who literally go every minute of the day with the taste of cop boots in their mouth that would say, well, she brandished a weapon. Okay, she's not there. You can see in the video, she's not brandishing anything. She's on the ground. But no, you're allowed to do it. Like, they want the boot on as many people's necks as possible. They might convince themselves it'll never be on their own. It's probably a vain hope, but they're perfectly fine to see that. They don't like what they think that woman is and represents. And so if they want to kick her in the face, they can do that. Cops get to kick people in the face.
In front of other officers, because he knows that other officers, or he figures, and he was right, won't do anything about it. Because this is a person that is outside, is the other, is the outskirts of the people that are meant to be respected. So as a black woman lying on the ground who was brandishing a weapon, he's got all the power on his side. I can do what I want now. She's restrained. Don't forget she had a weapon. I get to kick her in her face now. Okay, so at what point does the post-restraint punishment begin? So maybe someone murdered your mother and he's on death row, or he's on trial for it, and he could potentially get the death penalty. Should the family who's sitting in the courtroom, which we've seen this happen many times, jump up and dive over the barriers and attack the guy who's handcuffed and sitting there with his attorney? Because every time they do it, they peel him off, and that person gets charges as well. So at what point does the punishment part end? Do the police get to kick someone who's restrained? Maybe the family of the victims get to then kick the person in the face after they've been restrained. Because I would still be mad at the person who assaulted my family member. I'd want to punch them in the face a couple times, but do I get that privilege?
Yeah, so look, and the people that you're trying to get through to persuade aren't gonna care about any of the facts of any of this. The fact that the weapon that was recovered wasn't loaded, that she needed medical help, that's what she needed, that's it. And there's video of family members of hers talking about how horrific this incident is. We're running up against our timeline, but that is available if you wanna find. This is a person that needs help, but that's not what those cops were there to provide. And they eventually put the people on like some sort of administrative leave or whatever. Although the statement, again, we don't have time to read the statement. It is like, we've come to the conclusion that maybe it was unacceptable. No, he kicked her in the face. It's a common sense thing. You're not allowed to do that. And I want you to consider, if it hadn't been filmed, what would the police report be about that incident? Would they have been put on any kind of leave? Like, again, getting the footage doesn't necessarily lead to justice, but it is the only hope, because if it is not filmed, they are not going to do anything.
Nothing.
Anyway,
not sure if they're doing it after the filming. Sorry, as I said, not even sure if even the filming, as we talked about throughout, this is the theme of today's show. You can see the proof in front of your face, but we're still not sure if we'll do something about it.
Yeah, and to the bad apple people. Okay, so presumably he's a bad apple because he kicked a woman in the face. What about those other two cops? What does it say about all of them that he thought, no, I can do this? Do you think there are people in my life that I think if they were standing next to me, I could get away with kicking someone in the face and that'd be cool? No, that's not a culture that I've ever been involved in, but that is a culture that we just got a window into.
Hey, John, you and I and Brett and everybody used to go out for lunch when we used to have normal life at the office. If we decide to go out, because we all work together, we have each other's back. It's like, I don't like that guy's face, let's go kick him. And then you stand there and go, that's great, John, kick him again. Just because that's our job?
The one doing the kicking, anyway. Yeah, just terrible. But at least it was filmed, and so maybe something will come of it. But in any event, that is all the time we've got for Big News Wednesday. The day may be big on news, but it's still just 90 minutes. So JR, thank you as always. Thank you in advance for leading the show, probably solo next Tuesday. So definitely look forward to that, everybody. We appreciate it, JR.
It'll be the first and last time.
Exactly, one way or the other.
For sure.
Thank you. Anyway, everybody, you got a lot to look forward to. So I'm gonna be joining Anna Kasparian for the second hour of the Young Turks later on. That's gonna be fun, it always is. And before then, today's Wednesday. Okay, so you have to wait till tomorrow for reactions. But today you do have Dr. Rashad Ritchie and Ben Dixon. Indisputables coming up in just a few minutes. Go to youtube.com/indisputable_TYT. Tell them the damage report sent you and enjoy the show. Until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. See you soon.
They say good things come to those who wait. Welcome to Indisputable. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a heck of a show today. On the show, breaking down news of the day, my big homie Brett Erlich, producer and host, TYT. And in the bullpen, my debate guest will be David Grasso. David is host of Follow the Prophet with David Grasso. We're gonna talk about, I don't know, maybe money, capitalism, economy, and probably Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene for good measure. Ladies and gentlemen, my top story, Republicans are anti-police. They are anti-police if you are black, if you are a police officer who is called the N-word, and if you work for the Capitol. So let's talk about Officer Dunn. Officer Dunn testified during the January 6th committee, select committee, that he was called the N-word repeatedly by this racist mob of terrorists who attacked the US Capitol. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the US Capitol had its first hearing on Tuesday, during which Officer Dunn had recounted racial abuse that he and other black officers heard. What are Republicans saying about this? Nothing. Are they shocked and appalled? Are they calling for an investigation? Oh, no. They already said they're not going to do that. Okay, here's the video.
I'm a law enforcement officer, and I do my best to keep politics out of my job. But in this circumstance, I responded. Well, I voted for Joe Biden. Does my vote not count? Am I nobody? That prompted a torrent of racial epithets. One woman in a pink MAGA shirt yelled, "You hear that, guys? This nigger voted for Joe Biden." Then the crowd, perhaps around 20 people, joined in screaming, "Boo!" No one had ever called me a while wearing the uniform of a Capitol police officer. In the days following the attempted insurrection, other black officers shared with me their own stories of racial abuse on January 6th. One officer told me he had never, and in his entire 40 years of life, been called a to his face, and that streak ended on January 6th. Another black officer later told me he had been confronted by insurrectionists in the Capitol who told him, "Put your gun down and we'll show you what kind of you really are."
Republicans are anti-police. Republicans are pro-police when they kill unarmed black people, but they are anti-police when racist white people come against them. Here's more testimony.
I witnessed the rioters using all kinds of weapons against officers, including flagpoles, metal bike racks that they had torn apart, and various kinds of projectiles. Officers were being bloodied in the fighting. Many were screaming, and many were blinded and coughing from chemical irritants being sprayed in their faces.
I was grabbed, beaten, tased, all while being called a traitor to my country. I was at risk of being stripped of and killed with my own firearm, as I heard chants of kill him with his own gun.
I vividly heard officers screaming in agony and pain, just an arm length from me. I didn't know at that time, but that was Officer Hodges.
Eventually, he succeeded in stripping away my gas mask, and a new rush of exposure to CS and OC spray hit me. The mob of terrorists were coordinating their efforts now, shouting heave, ho, as they synchronized, pushing their weight forward, crushing me further against the metal door frame.
I too was being crushed by the rioters. I could feel myself losing oxygen and recall thinking to myself, this is how I'm going to die, defending this entrance.
I feel bad for these men. I feel bad for these police officers. This was a terrorist attack, just as it was described by one of the Capitol police officers. Where's the back the blue crowd? Where's the Blue Lives Matter crowd? I see nothing but hypocrisy here. There's more.
My time compared to Iraq, totally different. This is our own citizens. people who we sworn an oath to protect, but yet they are attacking us with the same flag that they claim to represent.
Another had crossed rifles beneath the skull, emblazoned with the pattern of the American flag. To my perpetual confusion, I saw the thin blue line flag.
What makes the struggle harder and more painful is to know so many of my fellow citizens, including so many of the people I put my life at risk to defend, are downplaying or outright denying what happened. I feel like I went to hell and back to protect them and the people in this room. But too many are now telling me that hell doesn't exist or that hell actually wasn't that bad. The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful.
There are some who express outrage when someone kneels while calling for social justice. Where are those same people expressing the outrage to condemn the violence attack on law enforcement, the Capitol, and our American democracy? I'm still waiting for them.
They will not show up, sir, because the people you're talking about, they don't give a damn about democracy. They don't give a damn about the Constitution, and they don't give a damn about you if you are contrary to their white supremacist ideological narrative. You have become a threat to them now. Look at the hypocrisy of conservative hosts.
You knew there were going to be protests. We all heard there were going to be protests. Why didn't you get ready? And why didn't one lawmaker ask that question?
The award for blatant use of partisan politics when facts fail. The Engel Award goes to Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn. We have more on him in a moment, but it's not about politics at all. And for best performance in an action role, the winner is Michael Fanone. Now, the award for best use of an exaggeration in a supporting role, the winner's Aquilino Gonell.
Where's the audio? Sorry, but there were 900 body cams. There were the surveillance all over the place. Where's the audio? I've heard all kinds of audio, but I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that, and I doubt that. I do.
And the award for race baiting piece of goes to both of y'all. Brett, what are your thoughts about this?
There is so much to unpack in that. First of all, like what I see from the right is the last guy, let's start with that last guy. He said, where's the audio? Here's the audio. The audio that you've already heard is hang Mike Pence. The audio that you've already heard is the breaking of windows in the Capitol. The audio you have heard is the heave ho. There's video and audio of that, of an entire group of rioters in a hallway coordinating the action of pushing down the only barrier between them and the lawmakers. They've seen it. They've heard it. They don't want, they say seeing is believing. Don't believe what you hear, but what you see. Well, we got both those bases covered. What else are they gonna ask for? Only believe what you taste? Because like I taste the bear spray when I see the rioters spray it in the face of those cops that the Republicans and other people out there are defending so virulently as the blue that they profess to defend.
Yeah, and what you see is a great exposure of Republicans not actually being pro-police. And I've said this a while ago, be very careful. If you're a cop, be careful about getting caught up into this pro-police propaganda from the right, because it's all an illusion. They are not pro-police, they are not even pro-military. As soon as the military does something that's contrary to their ideological core, they are now anti-military, they're anti-Capitol Police. But let a police officer shoot an unarmed black person in the back or brown person or just a civilian, all of a sudden we have to back the blue. We have to support our police. But it is a hypocrisy at its highest. Let me shift gears to this next story. This is insane, ladies and gentlemen. A former Mississippi cop named Matt Kinne is pleading guilty to murdering a black female. He's pleading guilty. Let's go ahead and put up his mug shot. That's him. This is a former Oxford officer named Matthew Kinne. He is going to take a plea deal in connection to the murder of Dominique Clayton. This murder happened May of 2019. He initially pleaded not guilty. Kinne is expected to take a plea deal of a life sentence without the possibility of parole at a hearing on Friday. Clayton was reportedly found dead in the bed of her home by her 8-year-old son with a bullet wound in the back of her head. Kinne is said to have broken into her home and shot her in her sleep. Put the scumbag picture up again. This guy breaks into a black woman's home, shoots her in the back of the head with her 8-year-old son in the house to discover the body of his dead mother. That's what he did. Authorities said Kinne broke into Clayton's home and shot the 32-year-old woman in the back of the head as she slept. Her 8-year-old son found her body on May 19th, 2019. Kinne was arrested the day after the body was found. He was fired from being a police 3 days later. I mean, call me old fashioned. But on the day you get arrested for murdering a citizen, I think it's the same day you should be fired from being a cop, right? I mean, you can't tell me that HR just didn't get around to the paperwork. It gets deeper. Put up the picture of this young sister. That's who he murdered. That's who he killed. Her name is Dominique Clayton. More, at the time that Clayton had told her family she was afraid Kinne might harm her because she had told him she might be pregnant. Oxford police caused the family undue stress by first saying that she might have killed herself, even though no gun was found, the attorney said. Ladies and gentlemen, what you see is the beginning of an attempted cover-up. They attempted it. They tried to spin the narrative, told the family, we actually think she killed herself. No gun found, but that's what they told the family. This police officer, this killer, decided to do this, according to the report, because he didn't want her to have a child by him. So he kills her. Clayton's family has sued the city of Oxford and the Oxford Police Department for $5 million. That's according to the Associated Press. This is one of those tragedies, really words cannot describe it, but I want you to remember, everybody, this man was a police officer. This man, while being a police officer, broke into the house of someone he was in a relationship with and committed cold-blooded, premeditated murder. If I were the prosecutor, I would not have accepted a plea deal. When you engage in a capital offense like this, there are two outcomes: death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. That's it. And I'm not a death penalty guy, but damn, it seems like it would rightly apply to this fella, right? Brett?
Yes, this is a devastating story. Every little extra detail that you learn about it makes it even more devastating. The family launched a lawsuit for $5 million against the city, a civil suit, claiming that this guy was actually on the clock when this happened. So he was in uniform, and the story was he would go over to her house at night, and they were in a relationship, and that was very convenient for him. That he was on the clock and he could be a guy in uniform sneaking into someone's house. Maybe he's on the job, people excuse it. What wasn't convenient for him, it seems, is that the woman that he was in a relationship with got pregnant. And that was inconvenient for him.
Yeah.
Because this was so inconvenient for him, he thought it would be more convenient to kill her. And worse, I saw a report in the Heavy that said that the uncle comes by to drop off the kid, the 8-year-old kid, and says, go in the house and lure your mom out so we can play a prank on her. So the kid goes into the house and finds his mother dead. Yeah. All because this was inconvenient for a cop for whom Everything is made wildly convenient for many reasons, not least of which the color of his skin and the badge he wears every day to work.
Man,
still not convenient enough.
Unbelievable. But we have sociopaths like this on police forces all across America. And it's unfortunate that we have to highlight these stories. And people sometimes, Brett, they say, why do you talk so much about bad cops? Well, here's the real question. Why are there so many bad cops in America? You're asking me the wrong question. If we didn't have the bad cops, we would not report on these bad cops. These are individuals who are literally paid money to protect and serve you. They take money from you. Just think about how offensive and egregious this is. They take money from you. You work hard. You get money taken out of your check to pay these guys, right? These people are supposed to protect and serve you. But instead of doing that, they're taking money from you in order to kill you, murder you, in order to violate your civil rights, your human dignity, your constitutional rights. This is what they take your money to do. There has to be a scrutiny, a transparency connected to that in order for the industry of policing to start actual reform or reimagining. My heart and prayer with the family. You think about this 8-year-old kid who knew this officer, who knew this cop. And thank God, Miss Dominique Clayton, the woman who was killed, she did not keep that relationship secret from her family. I believe this scumbag assumed that the relationship was very hush-hush because of his own marriage. But she told somebody. And she also told them, hey, I'm afraid of this guy because he may try to do something to me if I'm pregnant. She told her family this. And that's why he was an immediate suspect when it went down. She told somebody.
There's so much extra too. Like 2 police officers were resigned over this in duress.
Yeah.
They never give you any details about it. There's 2 police officers, Collins Bryan and Ryan Winters, who resigned over this when they started doing the investigation. Now, we don't know if Winters and Ryan resigned as a result of cooperating too much or not cooperating enough. They won't give you any details about that. But you notice in stories like this, when it goes to the media, and when you see that, if it went to trial and he had a defense, you'd see every little bit of disclosure about everything that she ever did wrong in her life. You'd find out everything about that. You would not find out the details of what happens in the inner workings of the police. The negative consequences that befell him, he had to be transferred from one jail facility to another. Why? Because after being arrested and put in a jail facility, a photo leaked of this guy getting special treatment. The Panola County Jail to the Union County Jail after a photo surfaced which showed him eating a meal at the guard desk, unsupervised and unrestrained. The guy, after doing this, after wearing, reportedly and according to a suit filed in civil court, he was wearing the uniform on the clock, taking advantage of that privilege and sneaking in and according to the upcoming plea deal, you can say it, killing his girlfriend or person he was in a relationship with.
Yeah, and see, once again, that points to the culture of policing. Because if we're saying that there are more good cops than bad cops, all of the good cops should be pissed off at this bad cop. And all of the good cops should say, you're the reason why I have to work to build my reputation with my family and friends and the general community because of bad cops like you. And there's no ambiguity here, Brett. There's no ambiguity. This man committed cold-blooded, premeditated murder. There is no, well, maybe he was thinking this and something else happened. None of that. This was as cold-blooded as you get. This guy should have never received special treatment, but he still does, even though he's a cold-blooded, murdering sociopath. That's the culture of policing. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
All right, welcome to Dr. Rashad Richard Indisputable. This is going to be quite interesting. I don't know if you can handle this much truth on any day of the week.
The unrest inside of the black community and communities that support them. It's because these cops are not held accountable.
You have a family calling 911, and that family is expecting help, not expecting their loved one to be killed by the very people they pay to protect and serve them.
Did you ever notice a cop that you work with call any black person the N-word or target people because they were black?
Nope.
But we disagree that somehow police officers are not also subject to the same systemic biases and racism as any other level of law enforcement.
It sounds like for everybody's need who wants to crucify the cops without looking at it.
No, I'm crucify bad cops, brother. Bad cops.
That we don't need the government to step into our lives, mandating that we should be wearing a mask.
You think you putting on a mask, Trey, is government intrusion, but you don't think the government telling a woman what she can or cannot do with her body it isn't government intrusion.
Where does life begin?
You want to go there? I can read it to you, bro.
You seem very well prepared. Certainly more.
Of course, why would I not be well prepared? They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform throughout this country, so I won't stop, and you won't stop either.
I've been a fan of TYT, I believe, for the last 6 years.
5 years.
3 years now. 7 years.
4 years now.
2.5 years. I just started because she got me into it.
My boyfriend actually watches it every morning and every night, so I kind of just started watching it with him, and I love it. I mean, it's the only way that I find my news.
Looking through YouTube, looking for like, political shows that look cool.
I came across a very angry rant from Cenk, and that's when I knew.
So I was immediately in love with the show. And then I had how to miss a live show since then. 10 times a day, I watched the show in the morning. Whenever I had a bad day at high school, Young Turks.
Man, Cenk is just so blunt and honest, and I love the honesty, and there's no BS behind the news, and they just tell everything like it is.
There's nobody censoring them. There's nobody there to say you can't do this, you can't say that.
That feel of authenticity makes it seem like what they're saying is true.
I feel like I get the real story from the Young Turks.
I am TYT.
I am TYT.
I am TYT. I am TYT.
I am TYT.
I am TYT.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
Welcome back to Indisputable. We got a lot of comments, let's get to it. TYT member, Mickey C, the silver haired dragon, says, Brett, my favorite reminder of a half-grown golden retriever puppy. That must be a high compliment. Okay.
My partner and writing partner used to call me the puppy missile. Because he's like, whenever there's a problem at the network, you would just shoot Brett at them like a puppy to go fix it. Like a missile, you just be like, go.
Okay,
go.
I see that.
Like, hi, can we get, I don't know, new lighting so we can see the thing? And that was
okay, all right, I would accept that. Danielle Labique. Hi, Dr. Rich and Brett. It is great to see you both. Great to hear from you. As always, thanks for keeping me educated on the truth, Doc. Love you both, and we love you back. Forrest, I've sat down in round table at a Republican coffee shop. This is how they actually think. Keep your enemies close. They believe what Rupert Murdoch tells them. Yeah, that's why it works. Carlson is a lying mother Tucker says, this is an abortion the right wing will probably support. Damn, but probably true. YouTube super chat. Sweeting Digo 45. They are effing crazy. That's correct, madam. Seymour Dominica says, I'm no detective, but who kills themselves by firing into the back of their head? That's one lazy cover up. Best they could come up with on the spot. 318_ Louisiana, Dr. Richie the GOAT. Thank you so much. William Poley, I love this channel. So glad to find it. We're glad you did as well.
Congrats on 150,000 subscribers, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's dope.
Wildly
isn't it?
fast. I saw it. I was like, I wonder if they.
Goodness.
150. So congrats to everybody who made it happen on YouTube. And if you're watching anywhere else, you can also still subscribe. YouTube.com/indisputable2IT.
There you go. Thank you for that plug, man. Sometimes I forget, but your mind, you can put together show, production, all of it into one.
Yep. Now, if I could only pay my cable bill on time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, next story. GOP traitors chased off by protesters. Listen, this made my whole damn week right here. Okay, this was amazing to me. Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, they are still trying to be relevant, right? So they were at a press conference. Let me just allow you to see this amazing footage.
The people of this country,
we gotta go.
The answers to the questions.
We need a break. The left is interrupting the press conference. We need to end it.
Thank you. For those of you that really care about this process, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you just saw here today is, again, the intolerant left. Here, I'll give those back now.
What? The intolerant left? You are literally holding a press conference standing up for terrorists who rioted the Capitol on January 6th. You don't call them the intolerant anything, but this is the intolerant left. Wait a minute. The irony here is staggering. They're holding a press conference being antithetical to law enforcement at the Capitol, being pro-terrorist, pro-right-wing violence, pro-racism at the Capitol, and then they run away from people blowing a whistle. Come on now. The irony is staggering. And I love it how, hey, we gotta go. We really have to leave. Those whistles are getting really loud here. We have to get out of here. They are a bunch of cowards. What they're doing is dangerous. It really is. By supporting those who committed acts of violence and terrorism on that day, they are creating a narrative that protects that kind of ideology and activity. These are dangerous people. The House Republicans were joined by Gohmert, Gasser, to talk about the treatment of those who were arrested for allegedly participating in the Capitol riot earlier this year. That's what the press conference was about. About a minute after that, an aide came over to the group of lawmakers and said, we've got to go. Gaetz and Greene can be seen on the video quickly ushered away from the event. This is Matt Gaetz fleeing the scene.
Somebody take them away. The media, you saw what happened here. The left shut us down. Yeah. They hate free speech. They hate free speech.
Are you a pedophile? 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 Are you a pedophile, Congressman Gaetz? Are you a pedophile?
I'm sorry. I'm enjoying this way too damn much. As a matter of fact, play it again.
Oh.
Play it again.
Somebody take him away.
The media, you saw what happened here. The left.
Watch his hand.
Yeah. They hate free speech. They hate free speech.
Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile, Congressman? Congressman, are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile, Congressman Gaetz? Are you a pedophile? Congressman, are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile, Congressman Gaetz?
Are you sure?
The woman who's asking Matt Gaetz the real question here. I mean, damn all this other stuff you're talking about, Matt Gaetz. Are you, sir, a pedophile? You're under investigation for it. Are you a pedophile? She did not lose her focus. She was there to get one answer. And then I think Matt Gaetz is practicing for what will ultimately happen to him. Did you see how he ran away from the crowd with his hands up? He was assuming the position that will ultimately be his reality, because Matt Gaetz is going to the pokey. Brett.
So that is Lauren Windsor. She has a show called The Undercurrent. Longtime TYT fans will know if you go to her YouTube channel, Undercurrent, or you'll see old videos shot in the same studio that TYT shot in back when we were at Current TV. She's amazing. She has gotten so many people, and that focus is absolutely right, because when she wants to interview someone like Matt Gaetz that way, she'll show up looking like that, just like in a professional outfit, and just walk and just keep asking the question that she knows is the right question. Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile? And honestly, in the words of Tucker Carlson, if people ask you questions and you don't answer those questions, she's just asking questions. And if you're afraid to answer those questions, people will stop to trust you. They're not gonna trust you anymore. So according to Tucker's logic, he's not. I'm not saying that Matt Gaetz is a pedophile. I just don't trust if he were ever to say he's not a pedophile. I'm just using Tucker's words against him.
Right.
But she's been able to do a lot. She just recently got the GOP governor candidate to admit that he doesn't want to talk about abortion because he doesn't want to lose votes. He got Tommy She got Tommy Tuberville to admit that he's going to be the first one to challenge the election results. And when she does it, when she goes and talks to Republicans to get close to them, she puts on a Southern accent and wears like a MAGA hat. And she never says anything that's a lie, but she gets in there like, how y'all gonna do this? I mean, he's obviously a cheat. I mean, but Biden's obviously a cheater, right? And she gets them to feel, because they know exactly what they're doing. The reason I bring that up is because everything to them is a game. As Swalwell just said, it's like the World Wrestling Entertainment. They turn it on and go have a press conference. That press conference you saw was the B team. The A team was Jim Jordan and Elise Stefanik doing pretty much exactly the same thing with Kevin McCarthy. This is the banished B squad. And the saddest part actually isn't Matt Gaetz walking around saying, I don't know if I'm a pedophile or not. It's Louis Gohmert realizing he's not gonna get a chance to speak. So as everything's getting shut down, but for everybody who realized this, I thought, well, and then he looks around, thank you for coming. And he just walks off. Because they all disappear and melt if a camera's not pointed in their face, spreading their hateful message.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
I feel free. Back off.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
The black male needs to get up and decide to put these black chicks in their place.
Damn, that's huge.
I get it.
You say the black women are messing with your mom? Or you say your mom's in the hospital? Oh, they're messing with the country.
That's so.
Okay, all right.
So the black male needs to say, you know.
Well, let me hold that thought. Let me order this food real quick.
Oh.
Can I get a crab and shrimp Louis with extra crab on it, extra shrimp, and add some salmon to it? Yeah, salmon.
It's smoked salmon, is that okay?
That's okay. Yes. And I'll take another one of these Cadillacs. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, please. Now, what was you saying again?
There's more video. Don't go anywhere. Listen. This drunk Grandma Karen was able to put her racism on pause. He said, pause a moment. Let me order this. We'll come back to this racist ass discussion. So she was telling this black male that black men need to start putting black women in their place. That's what needs to happen now. And the individual recording, his name is Nicholas Wilkerson, is just allowing her to continue. And there's more. Here it is.
The black male needs to wrestle the black female and tell her and put her in her place. Because if you don't, she's just gonna just, mess it all up.
Why is the black woman gonna mess it up?
Well, color of her skin, people like porcelain skin, the blue eyes, the yellow hair, all of it. You want to go there?
I'm asking you.
I'm telling you.
First of all, our black women are strong, and the black women in this country, in this world, is not the problem.
Yes, they are.
Because when you talk about it, you talk about my black mother.
No.
You talking about my black sister. You talking about my girlfriend. You talking about everybody. Now I don't know what's going on with your mom.
No, sir.
I don't know what's going on with your mom, but I think it's every black woman's fault what's going on with your mom.
Tell you about my mom.
Yeah, I'm listening.
That bitch is 97 years old and she don't know how to quit.
Oh, there we go.
You got black chicks that are like that, okay? They need to be reined in. I'm serious.
These ladies over here would love for you to join them.
Okay, right on.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, you have a nice day, okay?
That was weird and horrible, and just a lot of things happening at one time here. But it comes back to a default setting. We've talked about this on the show many times. What does it come down to with all of these Karens? Putting other people in their place. So this Karen has a different methodology. She's not trying to do it directly. She's saying that black men need to do it for her, basically. That black men need to put black women in their place according to this Karen. Brett, thoughts?
This weird is the perfect word. Like I hadn't thought the word weird, but it's just so weird. Like the discipline of this guy who's at, I forget what the dead fish, the dead fish, to be like, wow. Cause he just lets, in the Daily Show calls it, give them enough rope to hang themselves with, for lack of a better term, like just let them do it. Let them incriminate themselves. So he just asks her a few questions. It's amazing how she pauses to give him the opportunity to order food because she's being so polite. She's not a monster. She's just saying that all black women need to be reined in, but she's a polite lady. She's out here for her boozy brunch. Throwing back, originally I thought that was a margarita, but then I saw he ordered a Cadillac, which is a margarita. So she was like tossing back gimlets at 11:30 a.m. Like so crazy.
Man, once again, liquid courage, allowing you to express yourself even more. You are not racist because you are drunk. Drunkenness does not make you racist. It eliminates some of the barriers, some of the social restrictions you may have placed on yourself if you were sober. But what is coming out of her is what is inside of her heart. That's what happened. All right, we got more on the other side. Stick and stay is indisputable.
I'm old enough that I remember when Captain Crunch put the berries in there.
Yay, crunch berries!
And I was like, ooh, the fake berries.
Remember?
We're gonna try that.
We did a story back in the day about how a woman sued, General Mills.
She'd been eating it for 4 years believing that it was actual berries.
Yeah. She's like, these aren't real berries at all. I'm like, I got news for you. Captain Crunch isn't really a captain or a person. Joining me now, legendary whistleblower and American hero, Edward Snowden. First question is, hey, where are you?
I'm in my apartment in Moscow.
All of a sudden, in the studio, Jim Gaffigan, everybody.
Mental illness is, completely undiagnosed in our society.
It's not about a particular administration. It's about a broken system of power, and through that, really, the instrumentalization of a system of not justice, but injustice.
People understand whether they claim to deny climate change or not. Our collective house is in crisis. We're also dealing with the legacy of 40 years of economic policies that have made people's lives more precarious.
Sometimes you got to force people into their humanity. Sometimes you have to shake people into empathy.
Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us in the studio.
Healthcare is a basic human right, and we are fighting for basic human rights.
In order to actually achieve that vision of everyone having access to the same resources and getting to determine the outcome of their life, we have a lot of work to do, and it needs to start right now.
Here's something you may not know. When you deposit your money in a big bank, it doesn't just sit, safe and secure, in a vault. Instead, your money could end up building oil pipelines, mining for coal, or drilling in the Arctic. So if you're concerned about the planet, give your money something good to do. Make the move to Greene with Aspiration's fossil fuel-free account and join the thousands each week who are switching to save their dollars and save the planet at the same time.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. This is gonna be a big one.
What Donald Trump has done as president has cut taxes for the wealthy and made life better for rich people. But he's made life worse for poor people.
We're making America great again by throwing more money at the military to destroy other countries because that makes us great instead of investing it in ourselves.
That it's Donald Trump and it's Stephen Miller. The choosing is based on wanting to create cruel and inhumane conditions to scare other people away from ever coming to the United States.
The opportunity to make money off of tragedy is the American way.
There's only one place to put garbage people: in the trash.
We've never had so much access to so much information with so little idea of what the hell is going on.
What does enforcing our borders have to do with traumatizing children? Absolutely nothing.
I think a sane person could say the current situation we have right now is radical. But what we're doing is literally making the world more like hell. That's a warning sign.
ShopTYT.com now has books. One of them is Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People. That's a saying that AOC said, they've got money, we've got people. It's the best tracing of the AOC victory I have seen anywhere. It's the most accurate, and it's got great details. The book actually goes all the way back to Jesse Jackson and how he was the original Bernie Sanders. If you want to know how we're going to win going forward, those lessons are super important, and they're in Ryan's book. So check it out right now at ShopTYT.com.
We found the perfect person to lead the army, Allison Hartson.
The establishment media works hand in glove with our corporate legislators, and our corporate legislators work hand in glove with the corporation. And we're going to make it so that it's a decentralized force throughout the country so that we can quickly identify stories, quickly identify troll farms, and go in and neutralize the enemy, and then start building responsible media throughout the country and on every platform available.
Welcome back to Indisputable. We got a bunch of comments. Let's get to it. All right. TYT member Craig Souffle says the next Medal of Freedom goes to the whistle guy. That was an awesome whistle. Congrats and thank you for your continued service to the same part of the country. Yes. Mickey C, the silver hair dragon. Oh my God, Brett, you do Tucker so well. Just add in the hysterical hyena giggle and you'll have him down pat. LOL. Agreed. Super chat, Bernie the Kiwi dragon. I was just on my train home in London when a British Karen was removing her mask and coughing on a mother and child. I filmed her and we'll be sending the police the video soon. Hashtag Dragon Squad. And while you're at it, send me a copy too. Okay. Blue Knight, That murdering cop has made me lose what little hope I had in the police. We understand. Made money in the building. How much you want to bet Marge and Matt are messing around on the low? These people need to sit the F down and bring Karen with them. Yeah. Burb says, I love this story. They got trolled so hard. Also, the reporter is MVP. Ask him if he was a pedo. Yeah. Wow, she is good at getting at them, Tempest says. Run, Maddie, Gypsy Mama says. Twitch, Marion Space, the paradox of intolerance. Yes, we are intolerant to intolerance. Per for TYT. Hi, Dr. Rich, I absolutely love your show. You bring it all for real. All on the table. We leave it all on the table. Ladies and gentlemen, a Colorado cop pistol whipped and choked an unarmed black man has now been arrested for a felony. Let's go directly to that video.
Get out. Whoa, what did I do?
Stay down.
Whoa, what the hell did I do, dude?
Roll over on your face. Roll over on your stomach.
What did I do?
Over on your stomach.
What did I do, man?
Over on your stomach now.
Okay, bro. Okay.
Roll over on your stomach.
Okay, bro, don't shoot me, man.
Get on your stomach.
What did I do?
Roll onto your stomach.
Am I gonna go?
Yes. On your stomach.
I didn't do anything. What the hell?
Put your hands out in front of you.
Okay.
Put your hands out in front of you.
What the fuck, dude?
Hands all the way out.
I can't breathe, dude.
Hands all the way out in front of you.
Okay.
Straight out in front of you.
Okay.
This is in Aurora, Colorado. As you can clearly see, the man is not threatening these officers. But here's what happened next.
I don't have a warrant, bro.
Stop fighting. Stop fighting.
Help. I don't have a warrant, bro. Bro, I don't have no fucking warrant, bro.
Get on your face.
Bro, I don't.
Get on your face.
I don't have a warrant, dude.
Get on your face.
Okay.
Get on your face now.
Okay, bro.
Get on your face.
Okay, bro. Okay.
Get on your face.
You're killing me.
On your
You're
face.
killing me, bro.
On your face.
You're killing me.
Get on your face.
You're killing me.
Roll over on your face.
You're killing me. You're killing
your
me.
face.
You're killing me. You're killing me.
On your face.
I don't have a warrant, bro.
On your face.
I don't have a warrant.
Get over on your face.
Okay, dude. I just been
On your
fucking
face.
off.
On your face.
I don't have a warrant, bro.
Get on your
I
face.
don't have a warrant.
This cop pistol whipped that young man, pistol whipped him. Put up a mugshot of this cop. He has been arrested for multiple crimes. Now, I found some other things too. Put up a picture of this cop. This is John Hubbard. He faces 3 felony charges: attempted first-degree assault, second-degree assault, and felony menacing. I want you to remember that one, felony menacing, as well as misdemeanor charges of official oppression and official misconduct in connection to the violent arrest that you saw. I did some research on this, right? And I found that this cat had another mugshot. Put up his other mugshot. As you can see, he looks younger in this mugshot. Now, why is that? That's because he was arrested for felony menacing, the same crime that he's currently charged with, in 2009. He literally was arrested for a felony in 2009 and is one of the same felonies he has been charged with as a police officer. It gets even deeper. Hubbard, who according to a court record worked construction at the time, was initially charged with a felony menacing charge. However, the felony charge was eventually dismissed. In the Arvada police reports, Hubbard's roommates told investigators that they had planned to go out for the evening with Hubbard, but Hubbard arrived late and appeared to be extremely intoxicated. So here's what happened in the rest of that narrative. He ends up pulling out a gun on his roommates, threatening his roommates. He gets arrested for a felony. Now, the police chief, the current police chief in Colorado, she says, we didn't know about this felony arrest. Remember, this cop, post-certified, was hired and has held this position for years. But he literally went to prison. He went to jail, for a felony menacing act with a gun, and did it again while in uniform. The other officer who was there who did nothing put up her mug shot. She's gonna get this smoke too. Francine Martinez, that was the second officer at the scene. Francine Martinez faces criminal charges for not intervening because of that use of force. What does the police chief have to say? Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson called Harvard's actions and I quote, very despicable act, and said she is thankful the man he hit is still alive. We're disgusted, Wilson said. We're angry. This is not police work. We don't train this. It's not acceptable. The police chief later also called it criminal. Criminal. Brett, what are your thoughts here?
It is, when you see stories like this, I always am like, all right, I'll watch the footage to see if anything precipitated the action. I got to go in with an open mind. I like to be optimistic that it's not another, song's always the same kind of thing. Immediately, you realize he pistol whipped the only guy who didn't run.
Yep.
Cool incentive to comply with the police. And this guy's in shock. Also, immediately there is a gun in his face. That gun remains at the back of his head, not a taser. The gun remains at the back of his head while he's face down on the ground. After they get him face down on the ground, the video continues. He drops his body camera, but because he starts trying to body slam this guy, it turns over and you see him lifting up the victim and slamming him to the ground as other police officers show up. And I'm glad that they're charging this other police officer, because if you are around when someone commits a crime at a convenience store, randomly out in public, you get locked up as well. Everyone that showed up and did not intervene to stop it. And I would argue that they should be held to a higher standard, the police, but actually they're held to a lower standard because all those rules that apply to us just don't apply to them. And that's what's so crazy. And everyone saw the look on the face of this guy that was just sitting there. He just got off his bicycle. He's sitting there with two people in a very public place in broad daylight and never once expected that within 0.0 seconds there would be a gun in his face and blood down his face.
Yeah, one of the benefits, one of the positives of the Black Lives Matter movement has been the creation of what's called duty to intervene laws. And that's the reason why this other officer has now been charged with a crime. You have similar rules, policies, and laws in Atlanta and other jurisdictions across the country. It needs to be the norm, not an anomaly, but it needs to be the norm. All right, this is sick as hell. This is really sick. 2 NYPD officers have been fired, not arrested, but fired, for depraved exploitation of a teenage girl. If you're standing up, you need to sit down for this one, okay? In recently made public details, the NYPD fired 2 of their officers for rape of a vulnerable teen. An internal department judge ruled their actions were to satisfy their depraved interest, saying additionally the behavior of one of the officers would cause any responsible adult, let alone a parent, to recoil in horror. Bring up the photos. There you see them, New York's finest, right there. Musalam and Shahati, now 34 and 41, respectively, separately raped her amid dozens of phone chats and hundreds of text exchanges, which included sexually explicit photos between 2015 and 2016, the records claim. It wasn't until earlier this year the NYPD started posting about the outcomes of their internal trials. Here's what it says. The judge, Assistant Deputy Commissioner of Trials, Paul Gamble, recommended dismissing both cops after finding them guilty of the encounters and other internal misconduct charges in a 41-page ruling that forcefully rejected the officer's narrative. There's more. NYPD did not answer questions on whether or not after the accusations the officers were still on the force or if they'd been reassigned or suspended. But at the time, both cops had denied the allegations and remained on the force at full pay until they were fired March 25th, 3 weeks after Gamble's ruling. 3 weeks after a ruling that said you raped a teenager. And 4 years after the allegations were reported to the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office and the NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau, according to disciplinary and payroll records. Get this, while all of these cops and all of these oversight agencies conclude that these scumbags committed rape, ladies and gentlemen, neither officer was ever criminally charged, with the case falling apart after the teen refused to continue to cooperate with investigators, said a spokesman for the DA's office. I wonder why the teen stopped cooperating. I wonder why. Meanwhile, news broke yesterday of a Bucks County police officer in Pennsylvania being arrested for attempting to lure a child for sex. What in the hell? Officials say Clifford Horn, a corporal with the Central Bucks Regional Police Department, was allegedly outed after a group of concerned citizens posing as underage kids set up a fake meeting. The arrest happened in Atlantic City beginning last Thursday, with police there confirming a watch group posed as underage children on various social media sites, confronting the men who thought they were communicating with the child, then notifying officials with screenshots of the conversation. Let me take you to this video.
If you can be honest, or I can call the police. Your choice. Okay.
So what are you here,
go ahead,
Matt?
Do you want us to call the police?
Who are you here to see, Matt? I'm not here to see. You just wanted to see your name, right? Your name is right.
We're just having a conversation with a gentleman trying to meet with the child.
Serious. I'm not trying to meet with the child. What up, baby?
Hey, listen, man. Listen. You can leave cops. Listen. You can talk to us. We can figure out what you're doing. We won't call the cops, or we'll get the cops on the phone. They'll check your phone. Your zipper's down, by the way. You're standing in front of the running car. We got your text messages. Listen, man, you want to talk and tell us why you're here?
He's the police. Now, it's not clear if this cop will keep his job after the arrest, but Horn and 3 other suspects have been released as they await a court appearance. This is the second time this year a Bucks County officer has been arrested for a sex crime involving freaking minors. An officer, Matthew Rice, was arrested in May for possessing child pornography. What in the hell? Are these the good cops they're talking about? Brett?
Yeah, as Platinum Yeti says in the Twitch chat, is this how people got to start weeding out the bad police, setting up their own stings? Like, where's internal affairs?
Yep.
Where is it? Well, when they get caught, yeah, it's worth repeating or underscoring that when the dynamic is such that, like, the way the law is even written acknowledges that the police are coercing because of their position of authority a child into sex, ostensibly through intimidation and implicit threat of any kind of retribution if there were to comply with the police officers. By the way, ironic that it would be complying with police officers. They are police officers. But all of that put together into one story is just absolutely gut-wrenching. And obviously she's gonna not want to participate in that investigation because, who knows what police officers are going to come back and back the blue on those police officers' behalf.
Yeah, and who knows what threats this teenager already received, and the protection she was not given. If you coming after the police like this, especially when you got multiple cops involved, you damn near need to be protected as if they are the mob, because many of them operate as such. And if you're not being offered that protection, good luck. Brett, thank you, man. As always, brother, a pleasure. Tell people how they can follow you, check you out, all that great stuff.
Tonight at after the bonus episode, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/TYT. You can watch Happy Half Hour along with me. We're gonna get weird, so it'll take the edge off a pretty intense news day.
Thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
We got more. The bullpen is next. Stick and stay.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not gonna wanna lose, and he's gonna run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Jake has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's no bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
But
I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? They're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Iadarola.
You're doing a show that's blowing the doors off everybody.
Young Turks is the largest online news network, not a big deal. We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities. We're so sick of this corruption. We're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Fourth day on Occupy Wall Street. Last night we launched Wolfpack. It's us pushing our ideas out there, trying to help the country in every way that we can, trying to make this place just a little bit better. Reporting from the Hillary-Bernie debate. I gotta be honest, you know what we do? We cover it for real. For us, this system isn't working. Free and fair elections. And when he told the cops that day, when they came to drag her away, and he said, if you're gonna chain her, you're gonna chain me. If you're gonna arrest her, you're gonna arrest me.
Hi, I'm Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
Comments? Okay. And we got a lot of comments. I'll just read a couple. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon says, I'm already sobbing before those videos, before these videos are half over. And I'm white. I usually expect them to end in the victim's murder. I cannot even begin to imagine the horror Black people feel seeing this, especially since so many have been victims of the same abuse. It's quite horrible to watch. Thank you, Crumble 104. Thank you, Hiram Bifidum. That's all I have time for. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. In the Bullpen today, I have with me David Grasso. David Grasso is host of Follow the Prophet with David Grasso. He is also the CEO of Bold TV and considers himself to be a moderate conservative. We're gonna start the debate talking about economy. We may actually agree on some things. Mr. Grasso, thank you for being on Indisputable.
Always a pleasure to be in the Bullpen. Have at it.
Absolutely. I don't want to presume what you believe or think about the economy based on your political ideology, but give us some of your insights to the current economy and also the economy in historical context.
Well, I think there's too much cash rolling around. We needed to bring back the economy from the brink during coronavirus or the worst of the pandemic. Of course, the pandemic is ongoing, but we're seeing an inflation of asset prices and basic demand pull inflation. If you don't remember that from economics, it's when you have too much cash chasing too little assets around. And we've seen an increase in housing prices, fuel prices, and everyday living. And that's making it really hard, especially for young people, to get by.
Let me ask you about political philosophy as it relates to the shaping of the economy for everyday people. One of the great debates has always been, do Democratic policies help more people economically, or do conservative policies help more people economically? I want to get your take on that.
It depends on what you're talking about. So I can give you first a policy that was invented in Berkeley, California, which is of course single family zoning, which is typically a liberal policy. And that's really increased the price of housing, especially for young people. And that's a liberal policy. Sometimes conservative policies such as improper regulation and allowing market concentration to get to a certain point that markets are no longer competitive, neoliberal economics as the liberals like to call it, haven't been good either. So it depends on what you're talking about. The world is far too complicated to reduce into liberal and conservative categories, especially as it pertains to economic policy.
Well, let me give you some more progressive policies that have actually contributed to a better economic reality for many in this country. Having increased funding for higher education has a direct cause and effect relationship between earning potential for that particular individual who receives it. Having access to funding for training, for skill-based training, increases your overall net earning potential, which also increases your ability to pay revenue or taxes back to the country, creating the ecosystem necessary for taxation and government programs that come from that taxation. So you have this benefit, but let me read some direct statistics. I'm gonna go black then brown, okay?
Sure.
So under Democratic presidents, black families' income, and this is from Pew Research. Under Democratic presidents, black families' income grew on an average of $895 annually, but grew only $142 under Republicans. Black unemployment fell by a net of 8% over 26 years of Democratic presidents, but it went up 14% during that same amount of time under Republican presidents. Across the years of Democratic leadership, black poverty declined by a net of 23.6% because of some of these programs I just mentioned. But it grew 3 points under Republicans who reversed those same programs. Let me go to our brown brothers and sisters. Republican administrations have created policies where Latino communities experience greater unemployment. The incomes grew under Democrats by $627 annually, but you all actually dropped, or the Latino community dropped by $200 annually under Republicans. And the list is very similar for both dynamics. So my question is, and we're talking about statistical averages. So obviously there's some people that will do better, some people that will do worse.
Of course, sure.
But on statistical average, there's clear data from Pew Research that shows left-leaning policy actually helps the black and brown communities more so than right-leaning policy. And by the way, that Pew Research also shows that left-leaning policies help white people more so than those Republican policies. Republican policies would typically help rich white people more so than anybody else. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, so let's unpack this since I'm in the bullpen here. Let's talk about education. What you were talking about, obviously investing in human capital is something that should be bipartisan, right?
Yep.
But a lot of policies that have contributed to wider education paths for people have also increased the student debt crisis. And basically we have a blank check that's been given to institutes of higher education. And what we've had is an exploding $1 trillion bomb in our economy, many of which people our age, Doc, are living with this reality, right? So a lot of times liberal policies, while they're well-intended, contribute to these massive, massive crises. And what do we do now? We look at this in a way of, oh, well, we should forgive student debt. And I think most people believe that some level of student debt forgiveness should be on the table in order to stimulate the economy and of course give people a fair chance. The problem with that is it doesn't address the original problem, which is that institutions of higher learning have a blank check from the federal government. And if there's no reform, we're just gonna have a continual student debt crisis. As far as you're saying about the different policies, I think Mark Twain said it best. There are lies, damn lies, and statistics. The law of averages, if you know anything, I actually got pretty good at statistics and I forgot it all. It's one of those things that like, if you don't use it, you forget it, right? Basically, you can spin anything you want with statistics. I think right-leaning policies tend to produce some good and some bad, like anything else. Like I said in my original opening here on the bullpen, I think that it's really complicated and it depends on what you're talking about, what part of the country you're in. If we're just talking about national policies instead of state policies, where are most people migrating these days? They're migrating to more right-wing economies, if you notice that. They're going from places like New York and Illinois and California, they're going to Arizona, Texas, and Florida. So reality is much more complicated than a Pew study, which of course is, a very reputable source and a place that I depend on for my statistics. So I'll take your word for it, but I don't believe that that accurately captures the whole ideological movement according to that statistical analysis.
Let me push back on your college debt analysis. The programs that we're referencing would not accrue debt, because these would be in fact governmental programs that are subsidized by taxpayer funded operations. So you would not have the debt issue connected to it. There's an act that was produced under the Obama administration called the American College Promise Act. That act was politicized from day one. The truth is, brother, Republicans and corporate Democrats, they played politics with a damn good bill. And that bill would have actually taken a real chunk of this debt crisis issue off the table. It would have cleared the path for anyone who truly wanted to be educated, and it did not matter what zip code they came from or their ability to afford it. Now that to me is moving in the right direction. Now remember, while I do blame Democrats for making politics of legislation like this as well, Republicans are the ones who blocked it, and they offered nothing in the alternative. So if we're talking about solutions, right? You and I agree that a better educated workforce and a better educated country, you lead to a higher yield in income. Everybody agrees with that. So why is it that those on the right are not even talking about free college or reducing the debt, eliminating the debt, creating federal programs so that people can go to college if they can't afford it? Why is the conversation almost exclusively had on the left?
It's very interesting, right? Because I feel like they're talking past each other because they're talking about the same thing. That's half the conversation you're talking about, right? Okay. The other part of the conversation is that a lot of our taxpayer money has been used to fund these institutions of higher learning that are fundamentally not preparing people, especially Black and brown people, for working jobs, right? When you graduate from college, you're not prepared for the workforce. And in fact, there's an incredible mismatch between the workforce and what institutions of higher learning are teaching their students. So that to me is a mismatch and a misappropriation of public money. Everything you're saying is correct, right? We should subsidize programs that lead to a more educated workforce. It's a national security issue if you want to put it in right-wing speak, correct? An educated, engaged population is what we're all working towards. And if the right isn't having those conversations, then that's a problem, right? They should be. So I would consider myself a right-wing person, and I'm here having this conversation. Yeah. And I feel like those conversations should be happening more often because we're all working towards the same thing. I don't think anyone anywhere thinks that someone who is smart, wants to work hard, deserves to be deprived of any opportunity whatsoever.
Let me push back on that, and you can find the research on this. My second doctorate is actually in the analysis of higher education policy. And what you will find when you get to the nitty-gritty of why you have pushback from some lawmakers about progressive policy and mass social policy like this, is the politics of it. It's not the policy, it's the politics. The fact that they cannot own it, the fact that they cannot claim that it is actually theirs. It's the pushback. So when you say, well, everybody thinks that people should be able to go to college, work hard, go to college, that's just not true. Now, maybe in theory, maybe in the parameters of their mind, they say that. But in actual practice, there's a reason, brother, why those on the right who are in positions of political authority are not having the conversation you're having with me today. They're not providing solutions on the table and saying to Democrats, okay, we may not go as far as you want to go here, but here's a compromise to make sure people in America can get educated and trained to be better equipped for the workforce. And here's the data set that's not disputable at all. Some college and a college degree makes you more money than not having one. Having a college degree gets you an extra $30,000 to $50,000 a year. Having a graduate degree can get you an extra $70,000 to $90,000 a year. All of these are statistical facts based on actual data. So you can't say, well, college doesn't really prepare people. Well, that's based on a survey that many employers say, all right, well, I don't feel that these students who graduated are as prepared as they should be, but they're still getting paid, brother. And they're still paid way more than if they don't have the education. So why aren't we fixing it at its core?
Well, that's true. College does increase incomes. I don't think there's any dispute over that, right? But there is a law of diminishing returns, right? And what we're seeing too, there's a lot of people that are not college bound. And we've built our whole society around a college preparatory system, especially in secondary education. And we need a lot more trade schools. There's a lot of people who have a lot of gifts that are not confined to institutions of higher learning. And I feel like that's really important. And I hear a lot about trade school on the right, and that's something we need, right? Here in Florida, air conditioning techs, it's a noble field that everybody needs. If the air conditioner weren't on here right now, I'd be sweating. So, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and it's not all the world that you and I encounter, and maybe what most of your viewers don't either. The law of averages. Most people just want a well-paying job and they want a stable life, and technical school might be the best option for them.
Brother, you and I agree 100% on technical education. So anytime I'm talking about education, I'm automatically including technical education. I have a massive partnership with a technical school right here in Atlanta, Georgia. I've had that partnership for a very long time. I contribute heavily to it. I also make sure I show up, show my face, and I connect with those students. I get that part. And remember, we had legislation on the table, the American College Promise Act. It said it included technical training, technical education, and it also allowed for a very, very liberal credit transfer policy for those that had some college credit or experience in the field. It would have made a difference. But once again, brother, I have to submit to you, while you and I agree on the variations of education, including technical training, they don't. Republicans, your guys, are not putting forth the legislation to solve the problem.
Well, I didn't come here to defend any politicians. I'm famous on TV for not defending any politicians. I have no idea who would ever do that to begin with, right? I of course vote. You might be surprised at who I vote for. I consider myself a moderate. I'm a big capitalist. I believe in free markets, but I believe in a social safety net. So, this is more of a new generation's way of looking at things. And I think a lot of our disputes and a lot of the stickiness in Congress comes from the fact that people from you and my generation aren't in power yet. And maybe we can graduate someday to have these conversations that are inclusive of instead of just divisiveness and just screaming at each other and getting nothing done.
Man, I really appreciate you being on the bullpen. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for the conversation, brother.
Oh, I greatly appreciate it, of course.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, remember these things. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of this planet. And remember, the truth is always indisputable.